And we are live. So, what's going on, people? How's it going? It's Why It Matters again with another live stream. I hope you all are well this evening. It's been another very, very warm day today. It's not been as warm as it's been previously, but still, it's been a nice change of pace in regards to what we normally get in this country. So, while you enjoy the weather right now for the small part of the year that we do get it, make sure you enjoy it. Make sure you stay safe, keep yourself hydrated. Make sure you put on some suntan. Yes, that's right. Black people, you can put on suntan. Yep. I know the skin has extra melanin, but it's true. I heard it. I didn't believe it myself, but yes, we are supposed to put some suntan on our flipping it. I don't know why, but it is what it is. But with that being said, I hope that you all are well today. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Let me know whether my audio is coming through correct. I can see some people already through. Wolf, what's up? How's it going? Hope you've had a good day. I know people are probably tuning into the France versus Germany game, so I appreciate people may have, tied links. But on that note, I've sort of been disillusioned with football as of late, particularly when it comes to the international scene. What's up, KB? How's it going? Evening, man. Hope you're doing well. But I've sort of been disillusioned with the international scene just because England have always disappointed me throughout the years. As long as I've been alive, England have always disappointed, man. So every single tournament, we all have these high hopes. We're all talking about, it's coming home, football's coming home. And every year, every 4 years or every 2 years, World Cup and Euros, it's all been the same. Whenever we face an opponent that's half decent in the knockout rounds, we lose all the time. Matter of fact, the stat I just read was England winning their first game was the first time that they was able to win a Euro game. The first time they was able to win their first game in the Euros. First time. And this is meant to be perennial favorites coming into these tournaments. And that was the first time we've ever won the opening game of a Euros. That says a lot. So I've just been disillusioned. Other things as well, but really and truly, I've just been disillusioned. So I've been like a take it and leave it kind of guy when it comes to football at the moment. I've just been disillusioned with a lot of things that's been going on. So I hope you guys are enjoying the football, enjoying even the sport. I don't know if you guys are into other sports like the French Open, Formula One, MMA, all that kind. I like those kind of sports as well. So I'm not just a one sport man. I like all these kind of sports. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's Scotland beats all hell, and this is it. Really, this is it. All hell will break loose. But I'm confident enough that we'll see off the threat, KB. So I'm confident enough. But back to the stream, back to this live. This was a live which came off the back of a video that I produced, and my guest will be on shortly. So I'm just going to provide the introduction as I normally do. But my guest, who's known to a lot of these viewers on these streets, he'll be up in a second. But this came about in regards to a video. Well, actually, let's start with the groundwork. So it was on a stream with KB talking about colorism, and one part of it was talking about struggle love and all this kind of other stuff. And I was like, you know what? For some odd reason, that stuck with me. So I did a video talking about it, breaking down some stats. And so Marathon Man, he responded to my stream. He provided with his own statistics and came with his own analysis. And we kind of had a different viewpoints. And that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to discuss exactly the crux of, I suppose, what our positions are on this issue, because a lot of it did descend into the whole where we are as a gender, where are we in terms of our productivity. We're going to get all into that. But that was kind of the foundation that sort of gave birth to this live stream, just because, I wanted just to flesh things out. It's going to be a nice, lovely conversation. It ain't going to be anything, crazy. You know how it is on the stream. We make sure it's all professional over here. It's nothing crazy like that. So there's going to be no gang warfare. There's going to be none of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're going to get into it right now. I'm not going to wait too long. I don't want you to be up here for too long, because I know people have other things that they need to do. So just to remind everyone, if you are listening, please like the stream, share the stream, subscribe if you are new. Vincent, how's it going? I appreciate you being here today. Hope everything's been well since we last spoke. But without further ado, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add to the stream Marathon Man. For me personally, he's the funniest man on this side of YouTube, in my humble opinion. So I do really, really enjoy I know, because a lot of things to go loose and go left, but I love it, man, because you're a funny guy. So
Yeah, why it matters, but what do you say? No gang warfare.
no
Oh,
gang warfare.
oh man.
I mean,
No, I'm only joking. No, we don't do that over here.
this is it. I mean, we don't do that. We like to have I like to have a platform which allows people, regardless of their opinions, to have a nice. We call it a safe space these days, don't we? You know, if you want to turn up, that's fine. We can do that, but most definitely. But yeah, before we let me just say again, I do appreciate your viewpoints. A lot of things I will say, which I do have some questions on, but talk to the people about who you are on your channel and what's it all about.
Yeah. Bless up, man. You know what? What really brought me is that there's not really anywhere for black men to really talk about issues that they have. And if we want to know about what's issues for black people, we always go over to the American side, don't we? So we go over to the American side, and they've got similar issues, but we have specific issues here in the black side between black men and black women. Like in my work, I work in the criminal justice system, and I've talked to hundreds of black men, hundreds, and I talk to a lot of professional black men as well, and a lot of issues that we face. We seem to face the same issues within our community. And I've looked at it, I wondered, that's interesting. And we have shared experiences. So that's really why I made my channel. It's really a voice for black men. Because if anyone's going to help black men, it's going to be black men, it's going to be no one else. And for such a long time, black people have been, they've been afraid or scared to really talk. Yeah, to be honest, their feelings and what they think is going on. There's been a narrative that's been made for black men.
And you know what?
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, are you sorry? I don't want to cut you. So, are you finished, or sorry? I don't want to cut you.
No, I just want to say there's been a narrative that's been put out there for black men in terms of media and other ways, and no one's really looked at the stats, looked at the figures. It's been really a lot of emotion. So that's why channels like yours, we need channels like that. We need thinking black men who can look at the stats, look at the figures, take the emotion out of it, and see where we can move forward.
No, awesome. And here's the thing: I really, really, really do agree with what you're saying about we need a voice for ourselves as men and as black men over here. We do need a voice and a space that we can, talk to each other about our issues, our specific issues, and make it be about what we have going on here and how we can overcome our problems. And you touched on something about stats and the figures, which you're right. That's why when it comes to your response, and we'll get into it in a second, I did appreciate that you brought the stats, because you're right. There has been a narrative, and this is kind of where I think we had a little bit of a maybe a disagreement here, and maybe I sort of fell prey to that, and I probably didn't explain my video, because I think what you may have probably perceived was I bought into that narrative about, black men ain't this, black men ain't that, black men can't do this, or black men are bums. And I just wanted to point out before we continue, that wasn't the intention of my video at all. I know for a fact it's impossible for me to, generalize, say all black men are like this, all black men are bums. I'm a black man. I know there's black people in this space who aren't like that, who are well-adjusted, law-abiding, good citizens, good black men who are looking to be ambitious, who aren't looking to be, the typical Pookie and Ray Rays, who aren't trying to be like that. They're trying to be good, productive citizens. However, sense what you mean by productive, that's exactly what they're looking for. So I just wanted to sort of clear that up to say that wasn't the intention of the stream. It may have just been, and this is the next thing when it comes to stats, the commentary and how you interpret it, and then also the standards that we have, maybe a bit of bias, my bias, your bias, etc., etc. So I just wanted to start off by saying that's probably what it was. I didn't want it to seem like that. I was like, coming hard on black guys, because that's not what it is.
I really do. You know what? No, you know what? And I've been thinking about it, and I think because the stats are the stats. Like, and I'm not saying that your stats are wrong.
Yeah.
I would say, your stats, they're right, and it's just the interpretation. But I think I've worked out how we can look at why we're looking at the same stats differently. I think I worked out what it is really. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, tell me if I'm right. I think you're looking at um, the black people in terms of the black community. So how are we doing in terms of as a community, the cohesiveness, the structure within the black community? And I think that's how you're looking at it. How we're doing in terms of the whole community.
I am.
And
Yep.
okay, and like me, the way I'm looking, because how my mind thinks, unfortunately, when it really comes to the community, I don't really think we have a functioning community. So I'm just looking at it in terms of we have black men, we have black women from Caribbean, African, and we're basically brought together by being black, to be honest. But I don't really see us as a community, which is why in my video I separate the black men from the black women. So if you look at the black people as a community, a cohesive community, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Does that make sense?
It does actually, and to be fair, it's a good starting point because I suppose could you also say that there may be because you separated black men and black women from the community? Is that also how you see it as well? Do you not see, even though we may be from Caribbean backgrounds or African backgrounds, but we still have obviously black men and black women that exist on obviously both sides for African and Caribbean. But you mentioned here, and this is kind of because what I was looking at, you're right, I looked at it as a cohesive community, and whichever way I shaped it, whether it be from a Caribbean, particularly if we go for Caribbeans, even us, we don't have a cohesiveness, even like Africans. And obviously, when we look at the stats, even combined, it's still not great. So yeah, for definite, I was looking at it from a cohesive perspective and saying, and also this is the key as well. How are we measuring ourselves? Who are we measuring ourselves up against? Because it's okay to say we're doing well, but then what I look at is, okay, against who, and who has that measuring stick? Who has that yardstick to say, okay, cool, we're doing well, we're doing badly? That's kind of where I was looking at as well. So both from a cohesive standpoint and also from just a general standpoint in the UK, because we're not just competing against ourselves, we're not in a black dominated environment. So therefore we have other people that we have to be, in my opinion, competitive against, if that makes sense.
I totally understand. And I don't really have much of an argument if he's looking at the cohesiveness of the community. And I think I'm kind of the view that I'm not sure whether we can really save the community the way it is. That's where I am.
So here's the thing, because I was going to ask about that, because let's really get into it, because why do you think that is? I mean, why is it? Because this title of the stream is about the price of submission. A lot of black men are asking for respect. They're asking for a lot of things. But then again, you've sort of touched on the starting point is, if there's not a cohesiveness, how do you expect submission? I suppose the question is, how does that play through? How do you see the fact that we're so discombobulated, if you like, but yet we're still asking for the things? Is that a legitimate demand that we have on our women, considering the position that we're in, from your opinion?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of, I'm not really expecting submission from sisters. That's the thing. Like, my channel is for black men, and I think we need to basically work with us. The issue I have is in terms of black men the argument is that black men are below average and not doing things. They're not up to a certain level where they really deserve that. My argument is it's a smoke screen. It doesn't matter how well black men do. There's other issues why, sisters in general do not want to submit to black men.
Okay, so talk me through the things which you think why that is then. So if we're saying it's pretty much, it's a ever-moving target, that's kind of, if I understand you correctly.
It's kind of, there's a lot of issues, but it's like we're in a free society, and feminism's here, and it affects everybody, not only the black community, it affects everybody, like Indian, white, it affects everybody. So in society, black women are, I've been seen as more masculine than other women anyway. But in terms of education, employment, they're doing pretty good. Like in terms of the wage level between black men and black women, it's about the same. So they are moving up in industry, education, and to get to that level, you do need to be assertive, productive, masculine in a certain way. And like most women work now, and working is a from a historical point, it's like it's an attribute that is attractive to women. So a lot of our sisters are getting to the level like where black men are. But then most people, in my view, most people in general are average. Yeah.
No, I get,
So and so if we're having if it's a free society, all women can do whatever they want to do. So if black and they're that 10% who are in the top level, majority of people are in, you know, around 50%. Just even though we may disagree what average is, but
and this,
average.
and this this is what I wanted to get into a little bit because sorry, I've been seeing in the chat the Duke, you're saying below average. Where's he getting these stats now? A lot of my channel, if you look at the stats that I and even Marathon Man have provided, things such as employment, where we're employed in terms of that top positions.
Do you know
what? Some of our educational attainment, our group, and even in terms of the average pay per hour, when they measured it based on household income, these are things which we are even below the average. Because I think it's, and even you mentioned this, we're only above the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis, and there's a reason why that's the case. In my humble opinion, which is something which is to do with like religious and things of that nature at all, religion. But the Duke, these are based on stats from the government. These are governmental stats which will prove and back up my viewpoints about black people as a whole. When we look about where we are compared to other racial groups, we are below average, whatever. And this is what it is now, the average. But just before we get there, I just want to break it back a little bit because KB's asked this question. So can you define your view of submission for the sake of the argument? So what do you define as submission?
Cooperation. But like I said, I'm not saying that sisters need to be more submissive. You know what I mean? I don't think they can be. So that's not what I'm asking. And the thing of black men have other options. Do you see what I mean? So I don't expect them to change. I'm not saying they should change. It's an issue for our sisters, that is. But but sorry, you know, coming back to the stats, like I said, I will put the stats in the chat maybe after. The stats on my channel as well. Do you see what I mean? And
I mean, I can definitely pull up some stats in the call. It'll have to be like a shared screen situation where it's sort of just not all the stats could be here for all day every day, but I can pull up stats which I know one of the things which we both agreed on was where we are in terms of our average pay per
per hour, pay per hour.
Average pay per hour. My words out right. And it was definitely that's for me almost a starting point for a lot of the conversations that we're in. So all I'm going to do just for the purpose of this right now is I'm just going to share my screen just so that we have a kind of a similar footing as to where we are. So bear with me a second, people. So can you see my screen? Can you see everything? I'm just going to enlarge it to make sure it's come through all good. It's a bit too large, but let me highlight this. Okay, you want to highlight. But as you can see here, when it comes to the black group, again, this is based on the last data was updated in 2018, so it's not long ago, and it will, I'm assuming, update. It will show a bit more readily available stats. But as you can see here, I've highlighted it from the top group to the bottom group, and the stats are quite clear as opposed to average hourly pay. Now we can argue about, you know, maybe it's to do with this contextual maybe there's a couple of outliers in these other groups, but on the whole, on average, you can see where we rank. Only Pakistanis and Bangladeshis are below us when it comes to our pay. We have like other groups, which I don't know what that even is, which outrank us. You have Asians. Again, this is all the average white people, white British, mixed, Asian, other, and obviously Indians. They top the chart. So, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, I mentioned the other day that that like we are not below the Pakistani and Bangladeshis.
Yeah,
because you did say that in your video, and I said we weren't. And the funny thing was, the reaction I had was, yeah, we ain't, but we're not doing better than, say, the Indians and the white. Do you see what I mean? It wasn't a case of, okay, we're not right at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, but you're not doing as good as this group. And that is what I mean to say when I say that even if we were, where do you think we should be where you would say, yeah, we're doing well? That's the real question.
Good point. I mean, and this is going to be my inherent bias, so this is what it'd be about. But I don't see why we can't aim to be the best. If Indians who are not white outperform the white group, why can't we at least outperform the quote unquote most dominant force on planet Earth? You see what I mean? So if we, because if we be real about this, we compare black women to white women. Therefore, it should be reasonable for black women to compare black men to white men. And when you look at that, white women have the ability to be maybe more feminine, more submissive, because they will get a better breed or stock of white men. That's the argument, as opposed to black women, where to be the best that we're almost requesting, or I know you're saying you're not anymore, but I suppose at a time you probably did. It's almost like, well, the average is so much far less than the group which are compared the most, because we compare ourselves to white people so many times, where it's black women to white women, black men to white men. So that's kind of how I see it. I'm like, if we're comparing ourselves to that group because they're the dominant group, then let's beat the dominant group. Why should we be happy with being second from bottom? That's like who's happy with being, in my mind, second from bottom in a relay race? That makes no sense. You want to be at least on the podium, at least get a bronze.
No, but you know, we're only like this, especially from the Caribbean background. We're only like second, third generation in this country.
But
and there's
Pakistan, Indians aren't exactly. Matter of fact, we came around just about the same time, if not before, did we not?
Yeah, we came before them.
Yeah.
Okay, but then, yeah. So in terms of wouldn't it be better? The reason I compared us to the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis is because they get cooperation and more submission from their women than we do, and that's why I say it's not about your income or your stature or your standing in the society, because like I say, Mr. Ali ain't got more swag than black people. He ain't got more of a body game than black people. He hasn't got more more mouthpiece than black people, and he hasn't got more money than black people, but he still gets certain submission, and that's because of they have that duty and respect.
Do you know what? You just said something there which is really interesting, but do you not think that because you look at it from probably a complete different standpoint than probably how men are traditionally viewed, because you went with a lot of body game, swag, all these things which, let's be honest, are a teenager game. As a man, you kind of judge on different. Now, okay, you're right.
No, but that's why. Sorry, why it matters. Okay, that's why at the end I said that on purpose, and at the end I said they don't have the income that we have. You know what I mean?
But do they have the male pride that we don't have? So, for example, we prioritize things which maybe for a woman, she'll be happy to accept a lesser wage man if you were more of a, let's just say, a man who doesn't care about flossing, who doesn't care about looking better than their women.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Does that hold any? Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I don't agree with it, because okay, if you look at the stats, like what I would call what I call an average man, or not a pookie, is the man employed? Is he employed? And 65 to 70% of Black Caribbean, Black African, Black British, Black men are employed. 85% of them full time. So we know they're not just basically bums. That's a measure for me whether, you know, is the person a bum or not. And then there's an extra 10% of Black people, the majority are at college. And then we got a certain level of Black people who are retired and some who are not well enough to work, which is up to nearly 80%. So what I say is there's maybe only 20% of unproductive Black men in the community. And it's funny how, you know, it's like all these Black men, it is a small number, but I understand the problem is because you can have one ain't shit Black guy who could have 10 babies in 1 year. You know what I mean? By 10 different women. So these 10 women are saying Black men ain't shit, but it's that one Black guy. And the thing is, I don't see really anyone in these spaces really saying, you know, bigging up these bums, these Pookie Ureres. Like we're trying to separate ourselves from them. But then, sorry, the reason I mentioned that is because the majority of Black men are earning like an average wage of maybe £10 an hour, more than the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities. And they're just working people. You have that top 10, 20%, but majority are productive Black men. And a lot of people don't know that because we think, oh, you know, black guys ain't doing shit. And that is just not true. So they are productive Black men. They're not rich, you know, maybe earning between like 19 and 22,000 a year. You know, they're being productive in society. And I'm wondering, what does, you know, does that Bangladeshi and Pakistani man have over us in that sense? And they're not earning more money than us.
But to answer that part of it, and here's what I think, and this is why I don't discount that group, but there's more of contextual argument for that group. So if you look at the Asian groups, and if anyone has been around Asians will know this, there's a difference between Indians and then Pakistanis and Bangladeshis by really the religion. So a lot of, I say Indians are more white acting Asians. Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, they're really tied into their religious, especially Islam, which in my mind, and forgive me if anyone's a Muslim, I see it as a very primitive viewpoint and which stops a lot of their growth. Because one of the things that they do is that they intermarry their cousins, which causes so much problems. There's a lot of, for me, constraints on that group, which we don't have in the same way, which from let's take a Western standpoint of economics and finances, just take hourly pay, which goes into that. So I know like Bangladesh and Pakistan, there's certain things which I don't think our group can even be comparable to. And one of them is religion. One of them is that they some marry their cousins and all this kind of other stuff. Where the Indian group, a lot of it is down to, and someone mentioned in the chat, some of their people who migrated have a different probably social economic class than we did. But I disagree with some of it. But that's kind of why I'm like, that's why they get that, because a lot of it's tied into their religion.
But the thing is, no, sorry, I totally understand what you're saying. And like I grew up with Asians. I grew up in Leicester, you know what I mean? My school was 98%.
Yeah.
Where I lived, it's like 80% Muslim, and like my best friends were Hindu. And I understand. But the thing is, what you have to understand is, in today's society, if they wanted to, they don't have to put up with the tradition and bullshit, and a lot of them don't. Like I said, in my work, I see a lot of them doing bullshit. They don't have to put up with the restrictions on what they wear, where they can go, having to, like I said, intermarry. No one in this Western society has to do that. So what I'm saying is, like with Bangladeshi and Pakistanis, they choose to do that. Black women don't. They choose to do it because it could, like, what I'm saying is there is support in the UK. There's support where you can survive housing with your kids, benefits. You can survive fine if you don't want to put up with that culture, but they choose to
Now let me
cover
ask
their whole face.
because someone put this in the chat, and I was going to say that choose
They
they
choose.
that's not really. I
Well,
don't.
what is it then? What do you mean? What is it? If they
They're
don't choose?
forced. So again, things like in Islam, if they even dare to marry out of the religion, it's called apostasy, and they can get killed. I've seen situations where, even when it comes to Pakistanis and Indians, they have a massive rivalry, a massive beef. It's not just about cricket; it's about so many other things. Because obviously, Pakistan used to be part of India before the British got in there and they did what they did. So there's a massive tension that even exists where a lot of that culture, they're forced to do so many things, and this is kind of when I listen to some of the viewpoints on I suppose how to get submission from women and how to get it with black women if you want that. A lot of it seems to be it's almost forcing them to do it, and that's kind of what that community does. That's why I kind of because a lot of them are forced. If you we will for the most part.
I understand. So would you say that it's basically dysfunctional, those societies in today's world?
I mean, for me, it's a yes and no answer. I would rather have this setup, funny enough, than a Muslim and Islam setup, just because of the penalties and just I believe in freedom. I do believe in choice, and I do believe in consequences for your choices. But that's based on having a choice. I don't. Those groups, from what I've observed, again, I could be completely wrong, but when I've really observed them, a lot of times they don't have that choice, and that's what seems to be the overarching. To get back to, as we call it, traditionalism, to get that respect, that submission from our woman, regardless of who we are. Because here's the thing, I just want to say this. I do agree, though, that you should be getting respect. And I think this word submission is one of those words which it just triggers people. That word, it just triggers a lot of animosity from black women because it's seen as less substitute submission for slave. So I think a lot of them see it as slaves as opposed to when we say cooperative, not always being argumentative. So again, I agree with that whole premise. Do not get me wrong. I just think it's because we probably may A, expect too much, or B, what we want from each other probably doesn't marry in line with who we are as a group, i.e. men aren't producing like the standard of white people, which is why white women are why they are. Not all of them. Likewise, black women are the way they are because, they aren't like the white women. You see what I mean? I always think that's kind of the standpoint. And what we've done now, we've just decided, you know what, I can somehow weasel my way in here and there, therefore forget about it, sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of the time that choice word for those communities, it's more of a force, and that's what submission.
No, and I totally understand, but sometimes we look back, especially I'm talking about the Caribbean community.
Yeah,
my parents are Jamaican, and what we've always had these dysfunctional relationships. So we made it work. So it's not like black men are so bad in this. It's like, especially if you're dealing with people Caribbean, there's always been that kind of, because we have very loud, independent women. That's how they are, and how exactly, and how like our granddad and people dealt with it is,
But they were hard men themselves, because it's like I know whole stuff about when I speak to other people who are African and they talk about their women, they're like, that never resonated with me because I think Caribbean women, not all of them were dead aggressive, but they weren't afraid to speak their mind. So I've always grew up with that whole independent situation because that's always been a kind of thing. It may not be necessarily super independent, but I've always grew up with, that's kind of. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But the difference with the Caribbean women is it was like the Caribbean men didn't play as well. Do you see what I mean? So it's
some abusive situation.
It was a dysfunction that worked. So they know that if they get out of hand, it's going to be a fight, and then they're cool again. And that's how our community was. But in this modern society, it doesn't work. And like even with the Bangladeshi and the Pakistanis, they're having the same issues that we have now. So before they could tell their 16-year-old daughter, don't wear makeup. They can't say that now. And like I said, and I work with a lot of Bangladeshi and Pakistani men, who are in the criminal justice system because of this. But they still have more of you know, it's like that's why when I hear people saying about black men are bad and black men are and I said this the other day, they're the most docile, understanding group of men. And if you did see like Pakistani and Bangladeshi men and how they treat relationships with their women, you know, it's like, so what I'm basically trying to say is in today's society, no woman has to put up with anything they don't have to put up with. And like I say, it's a trade-off, and a lot of sisters, they'll rather, you know, be instead of putting up with someone who might not be, you know, or do what they say, they'll rather just be by themselves and get assistance. Where the Pakistani and Bangladeshi women would rather just keep quiet for the sake of the community. And like I said, I'm not saying it's right, but that's just the way it is.
So to ask you this then, would you prefer that setup then? Because you're right, they would stay there for probably the sake of their family, but also the community, because again, that the community would probably shame them. I know the men used to call their women all kinds of words, just for doing something which I thought was quite minor.
Exactly.
Would that be what you call, again, I forget submission, but a submissive, but a cooperative? Is that the kind of setup that you would prefer over this one now?
Well, no, but there needs to be some type of deal, because back in the problem we have now is with our kids, our children.
Yep.
Like I said, that's the issue. And not even our parents, our grandparents, they worked out for the children because it's important for the kids to have a mother and a father in the house. But to me, I think it's not really workable. So, and the difference between and like I said, and the thing is that as women get more independent and can do more for themselves and moving up in society, the problem is the femininity is going down. Their femininity is not getting higher. So there's a lot of like I said, I work with professional black men, and there's a lot of black men who really can't find a woman, or as Vincent would say, you know, a black Kate Middleton. You know what I mean? So when it comes to that struggle of, it's like black men are the ones who are in struggle of more of the time, because a lot of black men will not date out, will not try to date anything other than sisters. No matter what.
I have to push back on you, Mary. The stats don't support what you just said there about
it's 40%. Is it 40%, isn't it? Date out.
If you split for Caribbean is like 60%. Africans, this was based in 2011, so I'm based on what I'm seeing anecdotally, it's going to be more, but particularly because younger people tend to date out. But for Caribbean men, if we take Caribbean men, because obviously that's kind of where really you probably say more of the issue is, even though I'm going to disagree with some of the Africans in the chat about where they think they are, but that's for another stream. But yeah, when it comes to interracial dating, most black men, I think more than 50% of them are in an IR relationships. I'm going to have to just push back on there.
Okay. No, that's fine. But then you have to look at the reasons why, and
well, this is it. Is this the reasons why? I mean, there are obviously other reasons as well, but
the reason is, okay, in my view, the reason is, it's like, as women move up in society, they especially we have the most aggressive women, so their femininity becomes less, and other man, you like, the thing is, if more black men moved up in society to the top levels, it wouldn't help in terms of getting that respect from our sisters, because the more men move up, the more opportunity they have, and the more black men would date out. That's the truth, because you'd rather have someone who's not combative, if you have a choice, than a combative woman. So that's why I think if black men did better, it would not help our sisters, because our sisters are not feminine, and they're not becoming more feminine, and they want to date higher. That the higher you go, like that top 20% of men will have more options.
No, it's interesting because a lot of the top percent of men, I mean, when I was looking at UK celebrity couples, black British couples, especially born probably at a millennial age or just generation, just a generation beforehand, a lot of the rich ones, I can barely name, like, I can't even name 10 famous black UK couples, black British born couples at least. Because you're right, in terms of the options, it seems that they exercise their options en masse. In regards to the reasons, I've heard, the thing is, I've heard these conversations beforehand, way before. So it's not like I'm new to this conversation. I just want to sort of just play devil's advocate here a little bit by saying, do you think, or do you see the relationship between black women being masculine with the fact that black men aren't in their role themselves? So because black men aren't doing, okay, let's say they're not doing enough. Let's use that word. I'm not saying they're all bums, but do you not see, because black men aren't as productive as what other groups are in compared to like black women's heads, because we live around each other, they have to take more of the lead role because black men aren't providing like the white men is, or even like a Pakistani man, because you're right, they may not earn as much, but the women don't work. I think that's another reason why their household income, their average hourly pay looks less, because a lot of times they don't work, but black women seem to be forced to work, or maybe they choose.
No, but the thing is, that's what I'm trying to say. But it's like the Pakistani men are not earning more money, but it's like the Pakistani women would rather have less money and not work, but like a sister would rather just get the benefits. You know what I mean? And say you can't provide for me. But these Pakistani men are not making more money than us. But and the thing is, and to be honest, I wouldn't say they're more masculine than us. Do you know what I mean?
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. How are you? This is the thing. How are you judging masculinity? Because I think when it comes to
then,
people, we judge it based on the Mandingo theory, or the Mandingo concept, which is all about looks, swagger, BBC, all this kind of other stuff. But that's not how men compete against each other. It's a lot about the structure of your community. It's a lot about your leadership skills. It's a lot about your just overall productiveness and your overall compatibility with the society that you're in, or how you make way for the society. And talk me through what you think about that whole.
Yeah, but it's a choice again. Like I say, in the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities, it's not like these men are more masculine than black men. It's a fact that I don't know, you would maybe call dysfunction. These women know that there are consequences to their actions, and you know what I mean. Like I've been around Indian man, and the women have more respect because it's more the shame. It's not like they're doing anything more masculine than black men. And like I know so many Pakistani Indian men who are crackheads.
Yeah. Me too. I know. That's the thing. I know when I want to demystify the whole other race is so much better than us. I do want to demystify that, because that is not true. But when I talk about on average, I always say on average. But I 100% get what you're saying. Though it's not as if they're all wonderful. They're all doctors and engineers and that kind of stuff. No, I get that completely.
And like I said, and when I looked in the stats, on average, they're not doing better. A lot of them are bums, ain't doing shit. But that's why I say again, it's a choice. It might not be a good choice, and it may be to do with the shame and things like, and reasons as to why they do it. But it's not like they're more masculine. They're not earning more money. That's why when I hear this thing about, if black men were just up more in society, if they were earning more money, then we would be submitting. That's submit to you. That is bullshit. You know what I mean? That's pure bullshit, and it's okie doke. Because again, if black men get to the top, you're like, oh yeah, but you're still not doing this. And the reason I know that why black men really love black women, because black men do have more options. It is what it is. We have options. But a lot of black men, like even in this space, they would not date. Well, you're saying they would, but in this space, a lot of people, black men wouldn't date outside their race. But we have the option to do that. But like with our sisters, you don't really hear them say that they wouldn't date out their race. It's just like they would prefer a black man. But
yeah, but I think for black men it's the opposite. I think they would actually prefer to date outside their race, and if the opportunity presents itself, they will take it. That's kind of how. Again, this could be just my own observations, my conversations that I've had with people. So probably my inherent biases, but even the stats seem to it backs up. We do date out so much more. And here's the thing: other groups don't. I mean, there's been arguments about percentages and numbers, but other groups who have not too much dissimilar numbers than we have. They don't date out at normally the rate, because I've talked about this beforehand. I do believe this, that there is something called self-esteem in the race, where that does a lot of times people want to cohabitate, people want to marry, people want to have friends of people who have share the same ethnic background. So when it's the numbers we see here, I always thought this must be something going on that we're not taking into account. And these conversations clearly prove that it's not about it's about the submissiveness, the agreement, a lot of conversation,
femininity. And that's the truth. And the higher you get up in society, you're gonna have more choice. And the thing is, the more women move up in society, well, they're not going to want that average man. You know what I mean? Because they want a man who's above them, and then but the top guys have the options. So it's like that middle 50% of guys who are working, productive men. Like, that's who women really should be with, but then they don't want them guys. So it just leaves the Pookie and Ray Ray. And I think I know why a lot of women do choose these Pookie and Ray Rays, because Pookie and Ray Ray don't give a fuck. He don't care about whether you're submissive. He don't care about whether you're fat or nothing like that. And he'll put you in your place because he don't care about going to prison. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's only a small percentage, but a lot of sisters, instead of dealing with just an average guy, they'll rather wait for that top 15, 20% money you're not going to get, because he got too much options. And the average Joe, it's like a lot of our sisters think they're better than the average Joe. And in reality, if you look at all the stats, our sisters are not doing better than us. They're very close, but they're not doing better than us in employment levels. They're close to us. So again, they want someone who's doing a lot more. But I'm saying, if more black men do reach a higher level, they're not gonna deal with sisters. It's the thing. It's a lack of femininity, and it is what it is. And it doesn't work with the society we're in, and it affects all groups, but it affects us the most, unfortunately.
And funny enough on that, because this is what I said in my video, because I know you mentioned it affects all groups, and I was like, but hold on a second though. And this is where, again, my biasness about where we as a people should be aiming for, and this is kind of where we differ about what black men should be aiming for, because we should be, at my mind, we should be aiming for the stars. If we don't hit the stars and reach the moon, great, but at least we reached. I know in my personal life, from testimony of my own life, I know the situations where I probably didn't think I could have done it, but had I not aimed high, I would have thought, oh my days, I've reached this point, which I never thought was possible, but I still was in a higher point. So I kept on moving the boundaries, because by doing that, I realized when I actually look back as to how far I've gone, like traveling a marathon, I realized, oh snap, keep going extra step, keep going extra step, keep going extra step. And then you realize, oh wow, it's 5K down, that's 10K down. You see what I mean? So so I was talking in that piece about, because a lot of black men talk about feminism, but I was like, but white men on the feminism, because feminism is a white woman issue. It's a white woman started issue. But feminism has not prevented white men from building great companies still. I know there's average white men, but the top echelon, they still strive. Indians still strive. I know we could argue about they're not as impacted. Indian men will disagree with some of the things, but what I was trying to get at is we can still strive to be that dominant force, that competent dominant force, irrespective of the environment, because men adapt to the environment more than women. Women are so nesting creatures. We should adapt, and not just adapt, dominate. And that's why I wanted to sort of surmise, say, white men, wherever they go to South Africa, they dominate. They go to the US, they dominate. They go to South America, they dominate. They go to Australia, they dominate. New Zealand. There is no terrain on planet Earth throughout history where white men have not dominated. I don't care if they're the minority or the majority, they dominate. That's who white men are. And that's why I wanted to sort of really upon us to be that.
And I kind of understand, but again, it's just that small minority of white men that do that. Most white men don't. But let me give an example, and I understand what you're saying about what black people should aim for, but the issue we have, like I say, we don't have that community. We don't have families really. And like I work with a lot of black men, black young youths, and like sometimes I'll have a young man come in, and now they come in, all you can smell is the weed. You can smell the weed, pure weed. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you come into the people place and thinking of weed. You know what I mean? And there's certain black youths who've been dragged up. They don't know what a suit and tie is. They don't even know how to even go interview and present themselves.
I agree.
Success for a lot of these young men, these road youths, will be getting a little factory job or 9 to 5 and being able to keep it for more than 2 weeks without getting sacked, and having stability and being out of the criminal justice system. That's success for some of them youths. And I think to say to a youth like that, who don't even know how to, who don't even know how to communicate with nobody, to say that, yeah, you can be the next, vice president of Barclays. No, and it's just the truth. They can't. A lot of these youths, if we get them being productive members of society, having a job, it's a success for us. It's just that the top 20%, yeah, like the more productive black men, yeah, we can do better. But a lot of these young youths, they haven't even seen a masculine figure in their life. Get a job and keep it for more than a week. Man, that's a success. Like, a lot of these kids don't even know about belt. The trousers are fall down. I would tell them, you can do everything. I'm sorry, but I would like to tell them that, but nah, they can't. That's the truth.
But on that note, though, because what you said there, while it is realistic, there's also an element of, aren't we shortchanging these youngsters by almost saying, because of maybe you've not been taught at a certain age, you're now damning these youngsters to a life of just, wow, this is good enough for you, as opposed to saying, and I get what you're saying, but there's a bit of carrot and stick here, isn't there? Where surely, if you want to sort of impress upon a young person to change their ways, what you would do it is not with necessarily you're just going to live just, hand to mouth, but you also have the ability to be able to, especially in this day and age with all the technological advances, all the different industries, isn't it surely a place to say, okay, look, your past is your past. This is your future. Your future is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but you have a chance to mold it in a way which you probably never thought possible. And I think that's kind of where I'm looking at, why is it that we can't encourage, and this goes for women as well. And this is what I want to sort of ask the question. With that kind of mindset, can you not see a situation where we actually grow together and basically repair the relationship between like black men and women? Can you see us coming back together, or do you see it as just it's irreparably damaged?
Yeah, I can't really see it coming back together in terms of, no, because there's that lack of respect, and for black men, and I think it's an issue. It is an issue for our sisters, for black women, more than for black men, because, like I say, we have more options. But
black women are, to the credit, and I'm pretty sure you've seen this, obviously with other popular channels talking about femininity, and there's been a rise of that. I don't know if you realize this, where a lot of black women now, they are listening. You see what I mean? So it's not a case of these talking points aren't out there. I see a lot of young women who, in my mind, and this is what I hate, the danger of sometimes what we do is a lot of young impressionable people who haven't done anything wrong. They're living their life, and it's almost like we're damning the whole people. It's like we need to. Sometimes I think, forget the older generation; it's the younger generation now. So in fairness, this is what I was talking about with your example. Like, they're the younger generation. I'm like, hold on a second. Your life's not over yet. You're just 21. You're just 25. Most people who are rich aren't rich until their 50s, if you really want to be technical. So there's time just to make sure. For me, it's about the mindset and the culture and the headspace. And it's funny how, especially nowadays, how quickly you can turn your life around with the right encouragement, sometimes the right setting, the right people around you, and that's kind of really what I want to. That's my viewpoint. You know what I mean? And
you know what? Now I understand. Cause like that, and I did mentoring for a number of years, a decade ago, with young black men, and maybe I'm a bit. I've turned kind of a bit more
nihilistic. You're a bit nihilistic.
I'm working in the criminal justice system as well, and I see some of these youths, and it's like it's kind of institutionalizing them. So, like we were talking the other day about just communicating them. You know what I mean? No, I don't agree with that, but I think.
I mean, there'll always be an element that unfortunately won't be able to be helped. But I suppose, like with all things, we don't know who is that almost diamond in the rough. We don't know, because we always hear it all the time, particularly in our community, of you know, the people who have come from the depths of hell, if you like, and come to be from the pauper to the prince. We've heard these stories beforehand in whatever avenue that they do. And a lot of times I've seen those youths, they actually are more willing to go back to the community, which a lot of other brothers who are just like, forget it, to help out, because they understand maybe a mentor did the same thing for them. So why can't they be the same thing to another group of people?
But you know what? You're being very idealistic there. You know why it matters?
No, 100% right. And but there's a sense of that, as well as I understand the realism of it. But the thing is, this is kind of how, again, you're probably right. I'm probably being idealistic here with.
Which is good, but
at least there's a support mechanism. At least there's a support mechanism in place, so that can be the case. I don't think we should just be discarding situations. I think we need to just be reasonable and say, look, there's a situation where you can come back from. I don't, because I think we're in the Black community right now with there's a bit of strife where now we're saying, F the Black community, we don't care about it. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not saying you have to save everyone, but just, each one. That was a common Caribbean phrase, isn't it? Each one teach one. That's all it really is. And what I want to do, I want to ask you this, but I want to open the panel in a second. So just before I do that, I need to say thank you to everyone in the chat right now. I can see about 20 people watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. I can see a few people here already, and the chat's been very, very hilarious. So I do appreciate it. I am going to open the panel. So I appreciate it. It's been a very, very, very good conversation. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a very good conversation. And hopefully the tone's been nice and cool. So I hope you're not been offended by anything I've posed to you at all. But just before I open the panel, Marathon Man, we had a conversation, and I don't know whether you caught it, in regards to KB, and was talking about marriage, and we talking about just from a business standpoint. What I want to ask you is this. Do you know what? Maybe the problem we have, or maybe what we need to do, is look at it from a different angle. So take this as, would this work in your mind? Black man, black woman get together, have a contract, and I say, as a man, my duty is to do X, Y, Z. So that's provide, protect, keeping a job if I don't, or get a job. That's my duty as a man. You as a woman have a duty to be cooperative, submissive, maybe cook, clean, rear the children. That's your responsibilities. That's what, if you are, even in a relationship, not just a marriage, if you are to be with me, this is my requirements. And then likewise, one would have their requirements. But essentially, there's a coming together based on a contractual basis. It's more than just coming together. I think what we have a problem with is that we're not setting the boundaries right. And maybe would that be a sort of a way around it, having more of a contract? Even in a relationship, a proper contract that says, this is our responsibilities. Here it is. Yours.
That sounds like a really good idea, actually. And maybe we do need to do that, actually, just make a contract. That does sound like a good idea. And I think men would agree to that more than the women, to be honest. But that sounds like a really good idea.
Well, with all contracts, because I know what you said, and I knew he was going to go, because marriage is a contract, and obviously we know what happens. But with all contracts, there's penalties, there's things, but at least
I'm saying, would women agree to that? I know men would, but like nowadays, it's like, telling the woman she needs to be like submissive is a swear word to woman nowadays. You know what I mean? But that is a good idea. That could work, But
the thing is, I suppose to answer that part, it depends on what the relationship is. It will have a different feel to it. But the whole idea is to get togetherness. A lot of businesses, it works because there's a mutual goal, a mutual target. So even if, for example, all things aren't equal, or there's a mutual situation where this is what it is. And I know people in chat, I know Skittles Man, I know this is it, the whole no fault divorce. I get it. And this is why, especially with prenups, protect your assets. I mean, even I'll talk to my sister about this, and she's like, she would sign a prenup because she understands. So it's not as if women are, black women are completely out, in my mind, outrageous in regards to understanding the situation. But with contracts, this is where you have the situation where you can, you basically sort out these terms. This is where the terms of agreements are set. Oh, you see what I mean?
That's a really good idea, That's a good idea, that is. Yeah.
And this is the problem. We get into it about setting our terms of agreement, and then by the time it gets late, it's like, well, I thought he was going to do this. Well, you never agreed to this. And hold on, you expect me to do this, and you expect me to do that. And we get into situations. So forget finances, forget productivity. Once two people come together, set the terms to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
Then it's a case of we move from there.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think it could work, and again, that's how relationship should be anyway. You make terms between each other, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If it works between you, then go for it. Yeah, I agree.
No. Awesome. But I've opened up the panel for everybody. But yeah, Marathon Man, big up to yourself, man. It's been a as always,
man,
it's been a good talk, man. It's been a good talk. But yeah, we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it going. We're gonna make sure that people have their viewpoints and questions in right now. Again, people in the chat, please people in the stream, make sure you hit the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go around the panel. Unstoppable Force, you are first. How's it going, my brother?
What's up? How's it going, first? How's it going, people?
Yeah, bless up.
Going well. So I see you getting impatient about this whole open up the panel. So yeah, I was like, oh, raw. Yeah, let's open up that panel. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
So this is so the topic of this chat is basically about submissiveness and things like that, isn't it?
In a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah. So this is my opinion. Okay, this is just my honest opinion. You have a lot of good talking points, when it comes to, the types of women who are submissive and things like that. And it seems like there's a trend going on where you black men are all of a sudden, wanting a traditional lifestyle where they're providing for a woman. This is just my honest opinion, and this is based on from what I've seen. In terms of you find a black woman who's going to be submissive to you, 99% of black men are not going to find that in this country, because it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they're black. Like, black girls are less submissive than white girls. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because right now in this country, there are no traditional women. There are no traditional women whatsoever.
It's across racial lines. Forget about racial.
Yeah. Like, there's no traditional women, let alone traditional black women, because I've mentioned this on the last stream, because it took me 4 weeks to realize this. Traditionalism is dead. Like that's gone, because all you have to do is just experience life, the new life that we live in. No one wants to be traditional. No one wants to cook and clean. No one wants you to provide. In fact, no man deep down inside wants to provide. And the reason why I say this is because, do you really want to be the guy that's paying for everything, and you not having a guarantee that this girl's going to stay with you? And this girl probably, because most guys, if we're honest, they're not going to get like a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. They're probably going to get like a 6 out of 10. She puts makeup on, she's a 6.5, 6.9. So, bump up a couple of points, but the girl ain't really special. And that's what you're getting. You're providing for that. And I'm going to say this, I don't want to get banned, but a lot of girls today are the P word. Or if you're from England, the E word.
What's the P word?
Well,
probably.
Yeah, so you can decide that.
I put it in the back. I think the private chat. Put it in there. But no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cooking is basic. It's not traditional.
One sec. Respect the mother tongue. One sec. I'm just gonna let on top of force, and then I'm gonna bring you in 1 second. Just want to make sure everyone gets their piece. Yeah. So you have your word. You have your piece. I know you want to respond. 1 second, please. On top of force. Sorry, if you.
Yeah. So I'm not saying this out of disrespect. I'm just saying how it is. A lot of women today who are saying you need to be making this amount of money. You need to understand that woman is a P word, and if you're British, the E word, and you already know what that is. And
I don't know what that is, and I'm British.
Okay, I need to say what I think. Let me just finish what I'm saying. I understand. The reason why the reason why the girl is saying that is because they are looking for a father. They're looking for someone to buy to be bought. They want to be bought. This girl does not want to love you. Okay, this girl does not want to care about you. She's using you for your money. So a lot of these guys who are going to uni, they're building themselves up. Self-improvement, build myself up. I'm black. I need to dominate. I need to you do that, and then you find a girl, and she's gonna use you for your money. And that is what these people are not being taught, that you are going to be used for your resources, because you cannot provide for a woman, because they're going to use you. Because most guys don't find a woman that likes them, because they're not good looking, they have no swag, they have no confidence, they have no morals. They just copy people on YouTube. They watch a Red Pill video and they become obsessed. They get OCD because the girl dumped them. They get divorced and they have no father. They have nothing.
Yo, but you are going in right now. You are going in Unstoppable Force. So, I probably could let you go on for all day, all night, but I do want to get other people in the chat.
No problem.
Most definitely, we'll be coming back. Respect them on the tongue. Welcome to the channel. This is the first time that I have seen
a female
on the panel. So welcome to yourself. How are you doing? First
off? Hello, everybody. I just want to talk about the fact that the previous guy who just spoke and said how traditional there's not many traditional people, and his idea of tradition is basic. People should be able to cook. Like that's very, very basic. Cleaning, everybody should clean their yard. Like, how is that not I don't know. When he said traditional, I was thinking more like old-fashioned, not working, stuck to the kitchen sink with an apron. I was thinking that, but he's thinking, I don't know. I mean, shouldn't people cook? Like, what do you eat? Have takeaways? Do you have microwave food?
And to be fair, though, I do think there's a bit of a cultural thing, because, like, I'm from like a Caribbean background, and men and women both cook, regardless of if it's a man or woman. So I think you're right. On Unstoppable Force, how do you view tradition? Just to answer, respect the mother tongues. Do you see it as a woman, just a kitchen housewife sort of thing? How do you?
Yeah, really old-fashioned, apron stuck to the kitchen sink, having like more than 5 kids. That's really old-fashioned tradition. I don't know what do they mean by tradition. Are they talking about, I don't know, sweeping the courtyard?
No.
I want to chime in real quick.
One sec. I'll come to you. Honestly, all right. I swear, I'll come to you. What's up before? Sorry, can you just answer that and then go back to respect the mother tongue, and then I'll be with you. No joke.
Yeah, so I'm of the same ethnic background as Why It Matters, except both my parents were born in UK, but I am Caribbean as well. So my idea of traditionalism is from anecdotal experiences. So my idea is a woman who either or stays at home, cooks and cleans, helps you with your business, is agreeable, is acquiescent, has no guy friends whatsoever. She doesn't wear makeup, she doesn't wear weave. She has sex with you on command whenever you want to have sex with her.
She's basically a dog.
No,
you're not trolling. On top of course, you're not trolling, are you?
I'm not trolling. No, this is
okay.
Yeah, very good point.
That's what is traditional, and also the fact.
Okay, a slave then, basically.
Or she works, and you still, pay for everything. But at the same time, let's say you're struggling financially, you're out of a job for 6 months. She should be able to cover the expenses.
But that's not traditional. Men should not rely on women's money. That's definitely not traditional.
No, but
you're missing the point.
You're missing the point of what I said. A traditional woman is a helpmeet to you. She's a helpmeet. So her providing financially when you're down is a girl that cares about you. These girls today don't care about the guys that they're with because they want a guy. They want basically a sugar daddy.
But that's not masculine, though, is it? To rely on a woman.
So respect the mother tongue. Respond to that part about traditionalism. Is that how you view traditionalism, and is that what you would want out of a partnership, a marriage?
No, I don't think anyone would, and that's not traditional, because if that happens, then the female's family will react. And I'm just thinking tribal, like if you go back to Africa, if a man is relying on a woman's money and not doing his masculine duties of providing, then they'll chase him out the village, or they'll take it out on his parents and burn the hut down. So that's.
I was going to ask, what about his point about he will be doing that, but you have to serve, cook, clean, give him sex on command now, whenever he wants.
Even that's not, because it's a woman's body. It's her own free body. If she does not want to do it, then she doesn't need to do it. So that's not traditional. It's up to the woman. It's her. She has rights. So there's no such tradition like that, unless you're talking about a robot, which they do exist.
I suppose my question then, just to come back a little bit, sorry, is so how do you view a woman's role then in terms of a marriage? So talk about marriage now. In terms of a woman's role, then how would you view that? Or
equal partnership. If you look at the ancient Egyptian statues, the woman and the man are sitting side by side. That's the traditional African model. She has her own property. She has her own rights. So that's tradition coming from our background, not this patriarchal European way of, I don't know, treating women. We're different. So that's how I view tradition.
Okay, no, fair enough. And I appreciate your viewpoints. I guarantee it's going to get interesting. The Duke, welcome to the stream. I know I've been speaking to you offline. Thank you for stopping by the live stream. How are you doing today, brother?
Yeah, no worries, man. I've been doing well. I just saw your live stream. I thought I could pop in. This is a good topic, man.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, I'm gonna touch on what she just said like later on, but let me just go back to the topic. That kind of shaked me a bit. But just to generalize on the topic on submission, right? I don't think there's a problem with submission with black women within marriage. Like, you know, black women in the UK that are already married tend to come from a specific background. We have to remember there's a generational gap here. Our parents, our grandparents who are still married, still together, know their role. So this, you know, traditional, you know, rift that we were debating now is really down to modern women today, right? So the real question is, are women, you know, younger women today even fit for marriage? I think we have a problem with, you know, black women getting married. A lot of women, not just black women, white women as well in the West, have a problem looking for a man who is willing to marry them. You know, if we remember, everyone who's watched Blue Therapy or Backchat, you know, the Trend Central platform.
Just push back. That was fake. But sorry,
okay, that's fair enough. But examples of how sort of our women behave now, certain characteristics that we would most definitely shun away from. Like, who would want to date someone who is combative or abrasive? Like, who would want to, you know, commit to someone like that? You know, so it's all about really, are they even getting into relationships towards marriage? And then when we can't talk about statistics on single parent households, and people love to blame the father for not being in the picture, a lot of the times these are unintentional relationships where children are being born and people aren't valuing what it means to have a two-parent household, what it means to be in a marriage compared to what our parents did, because we've absorbed this new, you know, feminist agenda where, oh, patriarchy is the devil, when it's the one thing that has survived, the one thing that has kept our community strong, and you want to break it down because you look at the black man as your equal. You're looking for leaders. You're looking for men who to help you, to protect you, to, you know, provide for your family, and you want to put him in an equal position while all these other communities keep their men on top. What was Marathon made one mention, which was very important, very clear point about black men being the most liberal, the most tolerant type of man. If you look at the Asian man, the Indian man, even white men, they do not take the BS that we hear from our own women. And people complain, why are men dating now? There's a reason for that. Because of what she said about, you know, African, oh, this is the traditional way. That's not true. She brings up ancient. Does she know about ancient Egypt? What does that mean?
Is it because
not being rude, you know, to her, but that did not make sense.
So it's patriarchy then, because I keep hearing this then. So patriarchy, and
okay.
Hey, this is well that a lot of Africans now don't actually follow their traditional African traditions because of colonization, all that kind of other stuff. Patriarchy, then, is that a Western ideal, or was there legitimate truth in matriarchy in Africa was happening? Because I've heard Dr. John Henrik Clark, obviously before he's passed, he did say that it wasn't like the Western idea of patriarchy. It was more of a and let's be honest, an equal partnership. But go ahead, what do you think?
Listen, bro, I've explored this conversations for so long that it's rattled me a lot, because there's a lot of flaws in this idea, because we're all attaching everything to what the white man has done, right? If a lot of us who have African families know, a lot of us have African families who we know how our men are treated in our households. If you go back to the motherland, people aren't talking about this bullshit about breaking down the patriarchy. The Islamic community do the same thing. The you know, the Arabs do the same thing. What are you what the hell is this westernized perception of what the patriarchy means? It's always been that way. Men were meant to protect the community, the village. You know, they were the head of the house. What is this equal pattern? I've heard it a lot from a lot. Sorry, I'm kind of ranting now, but
no, that's fine.
If we want to look into, I'll call it in a minute, but if we want to look into this sort of this concept, it really boils down to what Hoteps really say is that they're really trying to elevate women. Of course, right? Black women are considered the biggest, you know, the most victimized group, as you know, Malcolm X would say. But what we've done now is to undermine the family structure by saying that we have to put our women in a masculine role. There was a debate about how we use the term strong black women in a sense to remove the responsibility men have in the household or men have in our community by making the women the lead. And that actually puts a lot of stress on our women. And if you guys know about, you know, Kevin Samuels and all these other red pill law in this manosphere, they discuss how, you know, the weight and stress of this world is not made for hips, it's made for shoulders, because that's what we are. We are the strong hold woman. Yeah, sorry.
On that note, I love playing devil's advocate here because I hear that a lot, but I'm going to say that what I find interesting about this whole patriarchy is that it only exists in weak, docile or cultures that have been dominated by white people. So when I hear this stuff about feminism and the patriarchy and men should be the lead, I'm like, cool. But there's societies and communities where people are fleeing from. They aren't communities which, let's be honest, people are going to. These are communities in place which the reason why patriarchy exists, and this is what I want to get to in the question, is because women's rights have been forcibly taken away because sometimes men aren't strong enough because they fear women compete. Because I'm like, if men are meant to compete, why are you scared of a woman for?
Right. So when I hear this, you're talking about the conversation on the term patriarchy. Basically, you're saying that the way there's a friction between men and women shouldn't really be discussed. That means the community is weak if women are having to debate this conversation. I get that, but in a way, you're saying that okay, a society is weak when patriarchy is made sort of the distinction. No, I think it's the complete opposite.
The societies where we praise it are societies that people are fleeing from. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have good parts of it. But I'm saying if the patriarchy was so strong, if men are meant to build, then how have they not built a stronger society where people are going to?
Okay.
They see that culture.
You're saying praise. So being praised, you're saying to promote patriarchy, right? Well, in a strong society, you wouldn't have to promote patriarchy because you have already a male stronghold, like, you know, men being the protectors of the village. You don't have to say it. You know, men knew their role. They're going to die for their family. Women knew that, okay, my man is going to, you know, protect us if a burglar invaded our house. That's essentially what patriarchy is, but we don't have to have that conversation. It's just that in the West now, where we have more peace times, where there's sort of less wars in this region, that we try and promote masculinity because we want to remind ourselves that, okay, this is what society is, being a man. But there's this problem where we want to fight the idea of, you know, what a gender role is or whatnot. And then at the same time, women are looking for men to lead and protect, men to, you know, raise their children. What is this combativeness? Like, why are we contradicting ourselves in our own community? It's our community that does it a lot. And even our men who, you know, some may label simps because we want to call, you know, black women gods now. Our own women, our own sisters. For what reason? You know, this conversation has got me riled a little bit because I feel like there's a lot of ignorance in this sort of conversation. Now, people are disconnected from it, especially between men and women. We don't even have to argue with our own, you know, men or women on this point unless there is a problem. So you are right. There's a weakness within the community. That's the reason why we're having this debate all over YouTube. You know what I mean?
No, I do. I agree. And thank you for that. And again, I appreciate all your views. I'm going to play devil's advocate the whole way through because I want to get some real conversations going. Now, before, I know Marathon Man, you want to speak on it because I know you co-signing everything he's been said. And I really would have liked respect the mother tongue to come back. She's just left, but it is what it is. But African Empress, I know you're in the chat. Fiona, I know you're in the chat. I know you are probably hot right now. So there's still one room left for one more. So if you want to come up, by all means. But KB Jones, how's it going, man? Welcome.
How you doing, my bro? You good?
Yeah, man. They're doing all good. So your thoughts on this topic so far, man?
Yeah, it's an interesting stream. I'll drop my point and then I'll drop back down in the chat so there's space over people as well.
Yeah, no pressure.
Well, I just wanted to add this. Going off what everyone's saying, in this current climate, as some of you will know me and we're connected and stuff. I'm married. I've been for like last nearly 6 years. Now, what I will definitely say is what does definitely work in our marriage, and this is not just from my side, but this is my wife wanting to as well, is me leading the relationship. I've got to be honest. It's the way it works. It brings structure. It brings everything. I think there was a short period, we're talking about a few months, when it went a bit wayward and everything went out the window. But when I am leading everything, when we've got a plan of action, I'm leading it. Don't get me wrong. It's not cutting my wife out. I do bring her to the table and we do negotiate everything. But the final decision and the final stakes do stick with me. Even in this current climate, it does work. It does work. And also it works in a sense of she is quite submissive. No, in fact, not quite. She is submissive to myself. Don't get me wrong. Submissive does not mean slave. She's still her own woman. Do you know what I mean? She still has her own idea.
That word is probably the trigger point. But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I agree. Because a lot of people get triggered, and I think people misconstrued what that actually means. Because I will class my wife as submissive. She's very soft, she's very feminine. She comes to me for any little thing. Even if she's not sure of something, just to reaffirm, again, that sort of leading. And as I say, it's been for 6 years and it seems to work. It works. She's often said to me, you know, if I was a different sort of way, you know, she's even said she would possibly get, you know, bored, and these type of words, like, you know, these buzzwords you hear, like, we had to have this in a sort of an admitted conversation, because she's like, I've had to think about this because none of this applies. Because leading helps our relationship, me leading, and it also makes her happy as well. And just like you was talking about in the world, I still got a traditional part in there. I mean, I'm Ghanaian, as some of you will know. I have Ghanaian background. So with over 90% of the house, I've got it. Proudly protect, provide. She's got the rest of it. Not to say that we both look after our son, but I take care of the outside. I bring him the bacon. She cooks it, so to speak. And it works for us. So just wanted to add that in nowadays climate, you know, when a relationship does work and when both sides are working together to come to that goal, the man leading does work. It does work. Obviously, he needs to have a direction he's going into. And let's be honest, not every man is fit to lead.
You know what? I was going to ask the panel a question on that, but sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, bro. I'll be done in 2 secs. But yeah, no, not every man's fit to lead. And I think that's where some men sort of sneak in and try and come into what we're trying to say is argument. I don't think those sort of men apply. Those men that are willing to, because what from the impression I'm getting is that the men that are talking on the panel and in the chat will be willing to lead with the appropriate woman, appropriate submission, and all these other words. I don't think I've seen anybody that's saying they're not willing to lead. I know some men do have that ideal. Personally, I don't co-sign that. Just how I've been brought up. I can't sit here and make my wife do everything. I can't, bruv. I can't. Like, do you know what I mean? So, and that makes her happy too. And like you lot were mentioning, this world is not. There's so much stress in this world, especially in the Western world. Yeah, it's not only not built for women. Women shouldn't have to deal with it when we're here. Like you said, it's not for hips, it's for shoulders. And I will gladly take that burden on. But when my shoulders need rubbing, she's there, if that makes any sense. So definitely, I would certainly say patriarchy, the male leading, you know, in the proper circumstance and with the right two people, it can definitely work. And I think it's the way forward. It's worked for me. And my wife is very happy with it. She makes a point of it. So yeah, just wanted to add that point as well, to add in, like,
Yeah. No. Thanks, KB, and thanks for that. And this is where I kind of want to open it up now, so everyone can like jump in. I want to lead it with this one because I hear this that men should lead and like Kamala stuff. But do you think most men have the ability to lead? Given before you jump on me, do you think most black men have the ability to lead? Given the fact that I've seen the stats in terms of pay, we're not the greatest. Our living conditions aren't as good in comparison to other groups. The crime rate between black men, that has to be addressed when it comes to a lot of these young youths. Are black men capable of leading a family? Because it's like you said, it's stress. At the end of the day, leading is not easy. People who have ever had a job where they've had to lead people, it's definitely not easy, and people should understand that. So, are black men capable of leading? The majority of them, or say, what percentage would you say are capable of leading? Because obviously not everyone can do, but just from a family's perspective, what are your viewpoints? Are black men capable of leading?
But do you know what? The problem we have in our community is that the single mother issue. So a lot of black guys don't see male leadership, but they are still men. So what I say to guys who haven't had that male leadership, yes, you still need to lead, but you need to make sure you find someone who's basically who you can lead. Do you see what I mean? So don't be going for a woman from a particular stature or standard. You need to find someone you can lead. If you're basically,
sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so if you're basically a bum, like I said, you still need to lead as a man, but you got to find someone who's on a lower level than you. Don't go with a woman who's earning more money than you, too pretty. You got to find someone that you can lead, because as a man, you still have to lead. It's not saying you can't lead, but you got to find someone who's basically near your level. And the issue is because we got so much young men being brought up without that male leadership. It's a big issue in our community. So a lot of men don't know how to lead. But like I say, that's why we need spaces like this where men can really talk and get help.
Sorry, African Empress, I think
Can I chip in?
Backgrounds. Yeah, sorry, to do. Yeah, yes, open panel.
Yeah,
so
just want to add on to what Marathon's saying. When it comes to leadership here and being the alpha, the provider, if you look at history throughout human civilization, only about 30 to 40% of men were allowed to pass on their legacy due to war, survival, disaster. That's why polygamy existed, because only a specific selective amount of alpha men were able to pass on their legacy, were able to have offspring. But today it seems as if every man has the opportunity to do so now, because women are. Think about it. When I'm talking about sexual liberation, then 1960s, when women had the opportunity to basically date around and have more.
It was the same,
right?
For men.
Same for man. But for example, a man has an innate attraction to spread their seed, but the opportunity to do so was down to how the community functioned. Right? I'm not trying to female bash or anything. I'm just saying how the structure of our society is today is that when it came to having children, when it came to creating a family, you had to be sort of social proofed by your community, by your extended family. It had to be through marriage. You can't have children and just abandon them or leave. So, the epidemic of the fatherless, household and what's going on in our community, that's the problem. There's a breakdown of the family structure, and a lot of men who weren't meant to be leaders, or who weren't even made the decision of, they just had sex with someone, are left with that responsibility. A lot of men, maybe 18, 19, had a kid, weren't prepared to lead a family because they just had an accident when it came to having children.
I agree, but the thing is, like the issue is, like I say, it's still a minority of men who really having kids. But the real issue is that in this society, a woman, like back in the day, a woman couldn't really survive without that male help and support.
Exactly.
And it's not really a case of men leaving. Men are not just leaving like that, but a woman would rather they can survive and the child won't starve and be supported. So if they're not happy with the man, then
so what's going on today then? How is it that now it's possible for a single parent home to exist? Now it's possible that women can have children, but men aren't in the picture
because of feminism. That's what I'm trying to say. Like there's that space.
No. I'm saying specifically, how come we live in a system now in the West where it allows that to exist?
It is what it is, man.
The wealth. I'm trying to get to a point. I'm getting to a point. The factor is, the welfare system provides that. If you go to Africa, it's hard for a single mother to survive on her own. She will need her family structure. She will need the man involved. But in the society we live here in the UK, sorry,
exactly.
The stats, hold on one sec. The stats say that Asian households, they have the lowest amount of single parent households. They're in the West.
Of course.
White people have a lower rate of single parent household.
Yeah.
They're the mother of feminism. My question then is, how is it possible that those groups cannot be affected in that perspective, but our groups do?
Because they have a
very
sense
simple
of
reason.
duty. They have a sense of duty, respect, and responsibilities. That's why. That's all it is.
How is that feminism?
Hold on. Yeah,
how is it?
That's very clear.
That's what I'm trying to say. They have a choice and they decide to have that duty. And there's one.
So marathon. Yeah.
I'm going to just drop a bombshell still. And there's one other thing that that other groups, why women respect men from other groups, why their women are willing to submit and stay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because they respect the fact that that man's got a penis. That's it.
Sure. You think that's what it is?
Because he's a man, and they respect the fact that he's a man, and we don't have that in our community. You know what I mean?
Can I
Asian guys are born. Sorry,
one set the Duke. I've got another guest on the panel, so I'm gonna let you chime in. Cool. I'll let you chime. This is but African Empress.
I'm on the road. It's so good. It's good.
That's cool. I love it. Welcome to the panel, African Empress. How are you doing, and what are your thoughts on this topic? Start from anywhere.
Okay, couple of things. I found, I think it was Marathon Man podcast. Women couldn't survive without men's help and support, and I think that was in the generations of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and I'd even say up to the 70s, maybe late 80s. I think from there.
Yeah, back in the day. I'm talking way back. Yeah, talking way back. Way back. Yeah.
Correct. I think it's flipped on its head now, where people are trying to get some level of that traditionalism, but it's done in the wrong way. I'd say, I will always bring up Kevin Samuels. I can see his rallied points. The delivery of it is completely different, and even then, I think it's more a case of, well, you sort of women can stay for these guys with that amount of money, but you women go this other way because you're this and you're that. And I think that's an online thing and an offline thing. There's more to that, but I'll speak throughout the podcast. The second point was, how is it possible white and Asian families don't have so many broken homes? And I think that's again down to the caste system and what I now call white supremacy.
No.
What? Say that again. Sorry.
No, I said no, but carry on. I'm not gonna quit you. Carry on.
Okay. I think that's down to the level of jobs. There's a lot of black women out here who, again, the 80s was a pivotal moment. In America, it's now come over here to the UK, where our men are put on the back burner jobs wise and are having to do street things, road things, create music, sell drugs, where the women are getting more and more jobs. Again, I noticed it in the 80s, and then I think it's come over here in the last 20 to 30 years. Where it goes next, who knows? But if you look at just some of the structures that happened in America, they had the drugs in the community, the men were pushed out in the homes, the women got more jobs. I think it's now come over to the UK, where our men are able to earn money, but it depends on what they do. There's some men that just don't want to work for the system.
Only 20%. Only 20% of men.
I think it's a lot more than that.
Well, the stats show it's only 20%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go.
But you're looking at employment, so contextually,
employment.
Yeah, because we could be 80% of men aren't, of that 80%, 50% aren't worth anything because let's be honest, they're just not doing anything.
But they're working. So what measure would you say to use to see whether a guy is a productive man or not? Because I think employment is a good measure.
No, it is. But again, I suppose my bias, I compare ourselves to other groups. I'm sorry, that's what it is. I compare ourselves to other groups.
Okay.
Because we're comparing other groups. I'm like, if we can't do it for one thing and then leave it out for everything else.
No, but the thing is, it doesn't even matter about other groups.
True.
70 to 80% of black men are working, paying taxes. Of that 70%, it's only 15% working part time. So they're not really the bums you see hanging around on the streets doing shit. But again, the guys who are doing shit, they're loud and they're making babies. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but I know that people think it's a lot more because in this space we haven't broken down the numbers that way. That's why we got like Why It Matters, and we need channels like this because when you look outside, you just see bums. But like I say, I look outside and I see white homeless people all the time. Pure white homeless people begging for money. But I don't just think, all white people are bums because I see that. So it's data's important. So it takes the emotion out of it, and we can it's the best thing we got, data. You know what I mean?
No, it is. And one of the things I was looking at was our wealth in comparison. And the four pillars they look at when it comes to wealth is net financial property wealth, net physical wealth, and other wealths. And for a lot of, particularly when it comes to property ownership and how we rank, again, these are all based on these things. Again, it's just, you're right, we're not all bums, but it's just not looking pretty. That's what I'm saying, it's just not pretty.
But why it matters? Notice that I didn't mention nothing about that in my video because you're right about that. But we don't have families. And if we don't have families, we're not going to be able to generate wealth. So that's true. We have like single families surviving on benefits. So we're not going to have wealth. So you're right about that in that sense.
Good point. Sorry, you wanted to get in.
Yeah, I want to add on to what everyone's talking about. I think it's very interesting. If we go back into sort of the history of the black community in the UK, if you guys know Akala, of course, he's pretty much a history enthusiast. He's defined how sort of black men specifically, or Caribbean black men specifically, are following the same sort of economic pattern as the working class white community throughout the 50s and 60s, 70s, because they came from the Windrush generation and then they went through the 1970s economic turmoil. So you've got a generation that created a culture that imitated sort of the working class chav community when there was no jobs. And so now you have a trend where, there's criminality and people are linking it to blackness when it in a sense is really just an imitation of what's been going on throughout the UK. When they talk about knife crime, sorry, and we can tackle that full on, but let me just sort of land that. So then, when we look at specific immigrant groups and we try and compare, black Brits and Asian, Indian British people, well, you have to acknowledge that they came with a specific sort of migrant pattern. A lot of them came from maybe economic opportunity or students. So when we start comparing based on race, I was trying to make a mention of that in the comment. We have to be more contextualized rather than just associating it with just color. Because at the end of the day, there are specific cultures that promote maybe pursuing education, pursuing businesses. Compared to a community that have been here during the rough patches of the UK throughout the 20th century. So when we look at the black Caribbean community, when you look at the data, I looked into it before. The black Caribbean community had a higher household income than the black African community. There are more black Africans in higher education. But then when you look specifically on what caused that, Black Africans are more earlier migrants, so a lot of them came and sort of are starting to accumulate their wealth, while Caribbeans had more of a, the decades on, a lot of them who benefited from, converting council house to house ownership. So again, contextualizing these statistics rather than sort of associating it with how Black people are struggling, there's a lot more to look into. But that's what I like to see, like more sort of an idea where we focus on that a lot more rather than, we have a problem, Black people aren't in the household, But yeah, I hope that helped.
No, respect, man. Respect.
Yeah.
Sorry, just going back on that. You see, I sort of agree with the Duke. We can't look on colour,
Right.
but I think we should look on colour. I know that sounds like an oxymoron.
We definitely should. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. On top of that,
Just not on its own.
Not on its own. There are certain nations who got more privileges than us. If there is this whole thing of white supremacy against the black nation, for want of a better word, doesn't that in itself say that others have got better treatment than others? Does that make sense? Sorry, I don't mean to be.
Yeah, I would in a way agree,
like-
especially in the
that's
UK. Let me even land on that real quick. I think when we look at the UK, I don't think there was a distinction between, let's say, how the Indians and the Pakistanis were treated to how the black, Caribbeans and Africans were treated when it comes to like how our communities ran, right? And white supremacy and racism in the UK. If we really look into it, they went through the same sort of marginalization as we did.
Yep.
While in America, the African Americans had the butt of everything. Like they had the
Yes.
worst of the worst. While the other migrant communities, they say brown stick around, yellow stay mellow, blacks to the back. That was very much a caste system. While in the UK, I did not. I can't really see how
No,
that
you're right,
worked.
you're right.
I think there wasn't you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say something.
Like the Commonwealth communities, we were treated almost the same because white English was like superior, and so nothing else. They looked at us all as foreigners. That's just it. That's how I see it. Yeah.
I just want to say something. Because you mentioned, you talk a lot about African people and Caribbean people, and that you distinguish a lot from each other. From what I've seen today, because I went to the shop yesterday, and I saw some young boys, and they're Caribbean, and the Caribbean guys are getting lighter, man. They're getting more lighter skin, man.
We're bleaching.
No, it's not.
What are you trying to say?
They're getting lighter, and this is just my opinion. You could maybe disagree with me, but I'm just gonna be honest with you, okay? Because I'm from South London. Caribbean people don't associate with African people. They stick to their own people. I don't really see a lot of like Nigerians fucking around with Caribbean guys. Like people are sticking to their own tribe, their own people. Because even when I was at school, I was excluded from the group. Like all the African people stuck to their own. Like they stuck to their own people, and I see that a lot. Because I know African Americans don't really give a shit about African people.
They don't get that. Yeah.
And I personally understand that. I understand that, and I will have to say this. Caribbean people, okay, and this is gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings. Your culture is an English culture. Your culture is not African.
Slavery, because of slavery.
Agreed.
You don't have an African culture because even because if we're honest, this is gonna sound a bit horrible, but you came. A lot of you Caribbean people, you come from Nigeria. Okay, you come from Nigeria. I know some people say Ghana, that's bullshit. A lot of you come from Nigeria. Okay, you're Nigerian, and the Nigerians sold your ass to the white people when they sold your ass to the Caribbean. Okay, so you can say you want to put money into Africa. You don't want to put no money into Africa. They sold your ass. Okay, so now you have to deal with it, and you came out the plantation. Now you're biracial. And now you got everyone saying you're in black and all this shit. So now all the Caribbean people are messed up, and they have to deal with the fact that their skin is light and they ain't black no more. Because from what I saw yesterday, they weren't black.
Okay, hold on.
No Africans.
So hold on then. Just a little bit. I'm a bit confused now, Supple. I thought you were going to sort of end up that's why we're more dysfunctional. I'm confused.
Yeah, that's why.
I can back him up. I can back him up. Let me back him up because I feel like I've had this conversation with some of my friends who feel like, oh, we're all the same. I'm thinking, well, if we want to be real, right, when it comes to culture, there are two distinguishing, like Caribbeans have their thing and Africans have their thing. I know growing up in school, I was treated a bit different. Oh, you're Nigerian, but then a lot of Africans, growing up would imitate Caribbeans because we want to feel like westernized as well. But today now we're embracing our own culture, which is fine. So it's like there's nothing wrong with having your own specific mannerisms and culture, and we accept that, right? We can delve into the negatives too, but I see the positive there. But then when he says, Caribbeans are becoming more light skinned, I mean, high interracial rates. And I want to touch on one topic real quick. The first wave of blacks into the UK was in Liverpool. If anyone knows about the history of the Black Caribbeans and even the African Americans who moved to the UK, they went to Liverpool, which was a slave port. And if you go there now, the majority of them are either white or light as hell. Do you know what I mean? Like the whitewashing of the Caribbean community. So that's
small percentage, and a lot of them moved out. So it was such a small percentage of blacks.
They're almost diluted.
I won't go a wave though, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, that is true.
But you know what? I like I said, I think this is a contentious issue in this space. But if someone's mixed or light skinned, are we saying that they're not black? Is that what we're saying?
No, I think what he's trying to say is that there's going to get to a point where our communities are going to mix into with the dominant society. We try to talk about how the black community. So, maybe 50 years from now, are we even going to exist if we continue?
But it's not going to stop. That's how it is, and I don't see an issue. And if someone has 10% black in them and they want to be seen as black, we should accept them, because white people do it. You know what I mean? To make them, they accept Italians and people like that. So if someone's mixed race, like Akala, and they're helping the black community, they want to see the black, we should accept them. Or Bob Marley. And some people don't like that.
The thing is, over time, what you look at, if you look at Brazil or like some of the Spanish Caribbean islands, how they view themselves. Yeah, they're part black. They're maybe 20% black, but they won't really identify as that because that's like looked down on, right? Because of the history of slavery. Who wants to embrace that? That's what I think would be the problem in the future. When you say, oh, they should call themselves black, but is that going to be a thing for long? Do you know what I mean?
But the
Meghan Markle.
What I find, sorry guys, what I find, and you're very right in the differentiation. I'm from the West Midlands, and what I find in the West Midlands is there's more what I call Jamaican. They're very in touch with their African side. A lot of them are very aware of their African, more than some Africans I know.
But do you know what? I think. Sorry. Do you know what? Like Birmingham is, or the West Midlands is the last place that's like that. To be honest, like we have a lot of black people here in Birmingham. There's a lot of black. So
yeah.
Compared to London or other places.
Compared to London. And there are a portion of those in London who also have that knowledge. And, we've seen it online. We've seen people who are very for their African, embracing the African side, if that makes sense.
That's good.
It's questionable how many are doing it just to do over other black people. That's another conversation to have. But I find it predominantly in Birmingham. In Birmingham, we're very much in touch with our African history and trying to keep a hold of that as much as possible. I have found some people in London also.
On that, African Empire raised a really, really good point then. So are we now saying it's Unstoppable Force and the Duke and everyone, because we sort of went off in a tangent, but let me bring it back. Are we saying the reason why Caribbeans, for example, have more of an issue with the family structure, and obviously we talk about submission, and obviously we say it's a Western thing, but maybe it was just the Caribbeans, we've always technically been in the West. We've had our own slavery and our culture is so similar that these things have hurt us more than, say, the Africans, because their culture is more in tune with...
We're more recent.
True. I don't know whether your culture will, in the next 30, 40 years, whether that will stay how it is. I assume it may not do. I don't know, because Africans are on the rise with their IR dating. But are we saying it's the Caribbean culture then? That's what helps it to be more divided in terms of marriage piece and the feminism. Is that what we're saying?
Right. What I'm seeing is like go on.
No, you go.
Okay, I was going to just delve into the fact that we acknowledge that our community has more people who live below the poverty line, and all the other marginalizations, right? But then when you look at, let's say, the white working class community, and then you compare it to the Caribbean community in the UK, you can see a lot of parallels. And as like Unstoppable Force said, you know, it's pretty much the same English culture. It's just that, you know, being Black Caribbean, you have a distinct, you know, upbringing and culture there. But then again, it's the same experience you see. It's just the fact that we're Black, it's more distinguished, while white people, when you add up all the average income and everything, they're normal. But then when you look specifically at the working class community in the UK, legacy. They make up the majority, right?
Yes.
And it's exactly the same pattern. Exactly the same trend. Fatherless homes, you know, poverty, crime. So it's like there's nothing specifically special about what the Caribbeans are going through. But we do go through racism.
Just on one point,
they just have more legacy. They just have more legacy than us, which is why there's more of them not.
Just one point you made it, Duke. Sorry, I'll let you go.
Okay, no problem.
The crime rate, I will say this, and I've looked at the stats and I'll look at it again. Black people, when it comes to their crime rate in their working class communities, they are much higher than white working class. Now, I understand they may have a different culture of maybe not single parent households, but the crime rates in Black communities are a hell of a lot higher than it is in working class white communities. That is something I
why it matters. One second, bro. But you know, if you look at the stats, who has the highest? Who really has the highest crime rate? And it's not Black, you know. No, it is
Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah, mixed race. It's mixed race.
Liverpool.
What type of crime?
It's mixed race.
Blue collar crime. Sorry, blue collar.
Actually, that is a good question, you know, because
I thought he was going to go that angle.
What?
That's what I thought he was going to go. I thought he was going to go that angle. Sorry. Good.
Oh, nah, but that's a good question, because if you look at some of the unspeakable crimes, it's not the Black community. You know what I mean?
Burglary,
19, yes, no, I'm talking
all of that.
Yeah, 99% is not the Black community, and like I said, I work in that field, and you'll be shocked. And it's not in the ghetto. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But so I'll do a breakdown of that one.
Up north, yeah. I think that the biggest focus is on how Black on Black crime affects our community and knife crime, and so that's the main focus. You know, the media places on it. It's high. We have to deal with it. But when we look at the general trend, when it comes to crime, Polish community, Bangladeshi community, they go through their own specific
white community.
They do have crimes.
And plus, if you look at and I'm going to do a video on DV. When you see the figures on DV, you will be shocked.
I want to say something, guys. Something I believe, and you may some of you might disagree with me, but I'm just going to be honest. I believe there's such thing called like a Caribbean privilege, which is similar to white privilege.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say this.
Agreed.
Yeah, Vincent in the chat knows my real name, but I have it. Okay, wait, before I ask this, I want to say, the Duke, are you West African?
Yeah, I'm Nigerian.
Okay, yeah. Because I wanted to ask something after I say this to you, but yeah. So the one thing I realized, is a lot of Caribbean people, they get hired by white people a lot of the times because of their English names and because of their features. They will sometimes get a little bit of an edge in the interview or in stuff. True. Because what I've seen on LinkedIn is West Africans, they create awards for their based on their ethnicity. So, for example, the Congolese awards, or the Nigerian awards, or the Senegal awards, or the Ghanaian awards. These are things Caribbean people don't do. Do you understand? Because Caribbean people want to be white. The future is bright. The future is white for them. Do you understand? They're almost wiped out. Well, like the Nigerians almost gone. A lot of Jamaicans now. Like you're looking at barely. Like you have. This is what I don't like as well. Because in London you have a lot of Caribbean people saying that they're Black when they're not.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What would you call them then?
What?
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in terms of the expression? Are you calling them a white man in blackface? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's a whole new stream in itself that needs to be tackled, because
which is why they're not going to find the woman for them, because they have this fear of missing out. You know, this is my only life. Let me try and find a white girl.
So do you think that's why they actually go get a white girl, and that's why they probably they think that they get submission from this white girl? Because if anyone knows anything about white women, they know that on average, I'll be honest with you, they're skanky, they're nasty, they don't cook.
Easy.
Not all of them, not clean. But I know what you're saying. We deify white women, don't we? Let's be honest. But are you saying that could be a reason for it? Because black guys, Caribbean men, want to be white, and to be accepted, get a white woman.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Caribbean guys, okay, especially ones that maybe look like me and a little bit lighter than me, they have major self-hate. So some of them might have like really strong European features, and when they look in the mirror every day, they're programming themselves to only go for white girls that have the same features as them. Because if we're being honest, Caribbean guys have look more European. Okay, they don't look African anymore. The African is wiped out. The only thing that's African is their body type. That's it.
I mean, I don't know about the average. Like, I still see,
Like
Caribbeans who are dark
Caribbean,
skin, dreadlocks. They're still looking pretty much African. Like, but then we know that they're Caribbean. I mean, you're making a good point, but I want to delve into this interracial thing. You're saying.
But I
that,
wanted to ask you one
Can I
question, though.
just touch
Okay.
something?
Yeah, because you said you're
Go on.
Nigerian. Okay.
Yeah,
Is it true that Nigerians only really started calling themselves black in like 2004?
calling themselves black. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm not really sure.
Because I grew up with some Nigerians and they never never considered themselves black. Like they would say, "Oh no, I'm not black. I'm
Nigerian.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I've heard Somalis say that, East Africans say that, but I've never heard West Africans say that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
East
the ones you've come
Africans
across.
East Africans are in the garbage. Yeah, they're racist to
Yeah,
West
they
Africans.
well. I won't say I've got Somali friends who are proud to be African, but they just won't use the racial construct term of being black. I embrace being black, right?
Well,
I get the argument people make.
I think you need to look at them racist Somali films, bro, man, and reconsider your relationship.
Yeah,
Because they are racist.
we could delve into that. Well, I wanna go back to what you were saying, right? So you're saying Nigerians see themselves differently. Well, from growing up, we know that we're black West African. A lot of our relatives or across the pond like, for example, I am Yoruba, but I know that in Brazil there's a large population that speak a Yoruba trait. So I know that there's an attachment to the transatlantic slave trade. We are embracing our blackness too, but culturally we are still very tribal. So when we're in the UK, we bring that tribal culture with us. So it's like we do see people differently to us. We don't just say black, black, black like the African Americans say it. We distinguish ourselves even within Nigerians. Like Nigerians don't like some Nigerians because they're Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa. We have our own problems. So it's like when Caribbeans think different too, it's not new to us, you see? So there's tribalism within our community. Yeah. And I guess we accept that.
That's why we have it over in the West, because I'm like this. The Africans have it on their own continent. I know we have it here. It comes from Africa. Whereas us Caribbeans, we always have, even though we're, could be Castitian, Barbadian, Jamaican, we always identified as black. That's one thing that Caribbeans always did. We never called ourselves anything but black, because I think we wanted to identify as a group. But yeah, I realize Africans that they seem to hate that word. Some of them, they hate that word black. It's
do you know what? The Pan-African movement was something that sort of the Caribbeans and the African Americans embraced, right? Well, we're gonna unite. But you're talking about a continent that within ourselves are completely broken. Like we've been having wars, civil wars for the whole century.
That's our ignorance and our idealistic viewpoints, I believe. That's definitely our ignorance. Right. Because we're like, oh, let's go back to motherland, let's unite as all one people. And then you guys looking as crazy like
which tribe do you want to join? Which team do you want to join? Because there's so many to pick from, and I didn't trust you.
Exactly.
Sorry, African Empress, you wanted to say something. I want to make sure
going back to you mentioned about Caribbeans identify more as white. Would you say that's more the UK? I kind of feel there's most certainly within a generation, there's more that identify more with the Europeans culture, if that makes sense.
Who's that for?
It's for you on Supple 4. So you were the one who was
Well, I'm gonna answer that, because I'm a Caribbean guy. Yes, they do. They do. And listen, man, they do, and it's only ones that look like me. The ones who look like me, the future is bright, the future is white. the ones who still look, you know, the one
Man.
the ones who still look Nigerian and Ghanaian, and you know, because there's loads of Jamaicans who look the same like that. They want a white girl in some cases. So don't be fooled just by looking at this Jamaican guy. Yeah, he's my Nigerian brother. No, he wants a white girl. Okay. Remember, he went through the plantation.
Well, still Africans are more loyal to like their own culture because it's more deep rooted to us. Like a few of us aren't, right? Like for me, I don't mind dating out, but I know a lot of my African brothers would be like, nah, I'm sticking with my own like specific tribe and everything. So it's a long way to go, but we might end up catching up with you guys. Who knows?
I look, the stats do say you are just creeping up there.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So the future's bright. The future is white. It seems like for you guys too.
Man.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I got a bit more to add to that. So going back to what we were saying about the Caribbeans, some identifying, again, it's within a certain age range. I tend to find that some places with some Africans, not all. I think they're, like you said, they're more hinged to their culture. But then do you see a separation between those who are in the UK, who have that white privilege, as we said earlier, and those in, like I've heard there's some privileges given to Nigeria, that backs up the UK system. Does anybody find it there? Do they find them more?
I've noticed that between like Nigerian community, we are very conservative. Like back in our own land, we are conservative. We don't what this liberal movement thing we don't get because we're still trying to, you know, keep our community together. So when it comes to like British conservatism and culture, like we embrace like the right wing. If you guys have noticed, a lot of these Nigerian politicians are Tory members.
Yeah,
or, you know, like
one of them kind of people.
Yeah. So they're, in a way, it's not about gravitating towards whiteness, but more towards Western conservatism in a way. We embrace our own culture. We don't really care for English culture, like, you know, the way you're saying Caribbeans are more gravitated to white culture. We don't really care. We just want to make money and be successful in our own right, eat our jollof rice. We don't care about anything else. Do you know what I mean? So it's like
that's
almost
where,
like,
and that's where I would say this
separate.
for Africans. They do seem to, and I'm just be honest with you, when it comes to Caribbeans,
Yeah.
Caribbeans are more marching for activism, pro rights. We seem to be more rebellious and more aggressive towards things that
Right.
happen to us. Whereas Africans, they seem to be a little bit more, let's use, I know you don't like this word, docile to that kind of stuff. You seem to be, if someone spits in your face, we don't care. Whereas a Caribbean, even though we seem to have this white accent, we will not tolerate that, which is why a lot of the movements have been either Caribbean or African.
We were the bad slaves, you know what I mean? We didn't play, you know.
Yeah, rebel. Okay, I can put a twist on that too, real quick.
And the thing is,
sorry,
I heard they took like some of the baddest ones from Africa to Jamaica because they couldn't manage them. Maybe it's true.
There needs to be a fusion. There needs to be a fusion between the Caribbean and the African traits. I really do. Sorry, go ahead, Duke. That's what I think it needs. Just like a fusion in the good and the, you know what I mean? But go ahead.
Yeah, to put on twist on that, when you said, you know, Africans are more sort of docile and conformative to this government or this system, I think when you look at it, we just don't take race into account as often. If you guys know a comedian called Godfrey in America, he made a quote saying that how his dad grew up in America, worked in America while they grew up. And when he was called the N-word, he was like, okay, you call me nigga. I think you mistook the name Nigerian as Nigerian is not nigga. What's that? So it's like they kind of detached this sort of, white supremacy is affecting us. And we saw it as another form of tribalism. Okay. We see leaving Africa where there's already turmoil between our own groups. The dominant Hausas are taking over our area, and then we come to the Western world. Oh, things are a bit better economically, but white people don't like us. Okay, that's another tribe we have to deal with. I feel that's how a lot of Africans behave. Somalis especially, they don't really care about all this racial stuff. It's like they're Somali, but then even within Somalis, they hate each other too. There's different clans. Africans
they're really unruly
differently about race. Yeah, we think differently about race. But a lot of us who grew up here are adopting the sort of the Caribbean thinking, the Western thinking more because we're like, oh, we're here, so it's like we're Western too. But then our parents are like, nah, we don't care about all
That's
this.
dangerous, and that's
I
the
think it's because
dangerous
what
thing.
happens is, all we've done is substitute race, tribe for race. So I think it's the same thing, but to substitute tribe for race, maybe. Go ahead.
Yeah, but what that does is that we put in a position where whiteness is the power structure, and then blackness is like we're the weak, oppressed ones. But Africans, the way they see it is like we're just trying to survive and take care of our family. We know this tribe hates us. We don't care. But then, you know, the Caribbean plight is almost like, you know, we have to fight this until it ends. We need equality. But what do you think? Do you think that's working right now? Do you think, you know, this movement, BLM, is it working in our favor rather than should we adopt
one thing I'll say is
Asians behave?
A lot of the movements, which I'll be honest with you, a lot of newer immigrants who maybe come from Africa benefit from are because of the hard work that other groups before
100%.
So I think
100%.
there's that thing of that respect doesn't probably get. I think it's like there's certain things that we had to do to get to where we got to now, and sometimes
100%.
it gets a bit missed and contorted. And you only care about race. I'm like, well, true, maybe, but there's a reason for that because of race we were discriminated against. Therefore, we had to fight
100%.
this laws and etc. Now you're free. Now you can say race is an issue. Yet now you can say that racism. Now you can say it. So I think that's probably where it is.
100. I completely agree because the Caribbeans went through that throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You broke down barriers. You were the forefront of the racist, you know, frontliners. But then Africans came in around the 90s and were like, oh, okay, everything's cool. So we didn't have the repercussion, right? But then what we see now is that Caribbeans are assimilated into the UK. So is that what's going to happen to the rest of us? Who knows, you know?
Yeah, but the thing
I
is,
think
I just want to say, you know, is the reason why, you know, this is hence the term Nigerian scam artist. This is where it comes from. It just is from what you said because Nigerian entrepreneurs, they outperform Caribbean entrepreneurs because the brain of a Nigerian person is money. Give me money, give me money, make more money. Like, do you understand? Like I've went to North Africa. I've seen Nigerians in North Africa excursion. Come my excursion. You know what I'm saying? There's money. This is why Nigerians make more money because they need to find ways to make money because they don't come from toxicity. Whereas Caribbean people, they come from toxicity, so they always make excuses. And even some Africans make excuses. Like I was on a live stream the other day, and this Ghanaian guy, was saying that only Asian people hire him, white people don't hire him, which is bullshit. Okay, so
could you explain what you mean by toxicity?
So what I mean is Caribbeans, they've gone through 600 years of torment, do you understand, of slavery. And they came out the plantation biracial, they came out the plantation with light skin syndrome, they came out the plantation with athleticism, and they're just being used and abused in sports.
Same like the African Americans.
Yeah, the same thing like the African American. Then the Nigerian guy just takes a flight to England and he's like, oh yes, I make my money. Like this is good. Like you're saying, he makes his money and then he just sits and he just watches the Caribbean guy cry on the floor about racism all day. He's like, what is this? Like, what is this? You're saying, shut up.
Accurate, 100% accurate.
So yeah,
that's how it looks like.
Right, Bo. I know. You just come to the panel. I know you've been in the back chat. Welcome again. What's your take on this? I know we've sort of gone off on a bit of a tangent, so I don't know which part you want to get in on.
I wanted to comment on this because I've been listening to everything on it. It'll be too much to go back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But for this particular issue, though, right, this is a real interesting thing, being that I'm African American. And listening to the experiences of the Caribbean and kind of like identifying with it and understanding it. But from hearing the perspective of the African and whatnot, I know that that's the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because when you see it in America, you can see what, like, in the chat, I was having a conversation in the chat, right? And the dude asked me, because I said there's African privilege in America, because earlier, one of the panelists said there's Caribbean privilege in the UK. And I said in America, it's the opposite. There's African privilege, right? And what I told him was, I said, one of the reasons is because you don't have that attachment to the legacy of slavery, right? And Jim Crow. And what you see is in America the burden of slavery, not necessarily by any means of white supremacy or whatever, but just the mental burdens that it has on a lot of African Americans that makes it impossible for a lot of them to kind of like progress. Even if you look at it from the perspective of how we even view politics, like our politics are viewed solely through the lenses of racism and the legacy of slavery and all that, where that burden isn't placed on the African immigrant. They don't have that, and it's not manipulated against them either by their own elite, because you got to think about the black elite in America manipulates that legacy. That's why they keep on beating it in our head about, and we constantly have to fight these battles of white supremacy and Black Lives Matter that can never be won anyway. Like, you can never win racism. We can't end racism, but along the way, your preachers and everybody else can get rich and turn it into $1 billion industry fighting it. And I think that's what, and it just goes to show that, but I don't know how you can get people to see it without, I know people get triggered by stuff like that. And I think that's one of the burdens that Caribbeans and blacks have, where we spend so much time fighting battles that can't be won. That's a lot of times that's battles within our own heads.
True,
You know what I
true.
mean?
No,
True.
you're right. You're right.
True.
And this is the question actually. Then, so can we then? Is it possible then that we can actually, I suppose, fight these demons and understand the landscape? I suppose taking it from almost the African perspective, if you like, of we're here now, we know race, we understand where we're at now, but can we bring our culture back so things like family, economics, we can thrive, not just survive, but thrive. Can we overcome this? Open question to the panel.
Okay, one thing I want to address is how, you know, pro-blackness and Pan-Africanism. I think Pan-Africanism needs to stop, like on one end, and like African Americans need to just focus on themselves, focus on their plight, rather than trying to embrace, you know, Africans and Caribbeans. The same thing. Focus on your plight too, because Africans don't think the same. We have our own issues right now. Right. ADOS. Africans don't think the same as you lot. Yeah. And for a long time, it was almost enforced that, oh, you're going back to the motherland. You're going to embrace the people. That's great. Go for holiday. But don't think that we want to unite, because we have our issues. So when it comes down to unity, focus on your group. Your group needs a lot of attention, a lot of help, because of the history of that, you know, slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, that has impacted the culture. And then now you've got all these African immigrants coming into the country that have no idea. They're like, oh, you know, we're benefiting from things that we never had to go through. Same thing with the Caribbeans in the UK. But then you have an advantage, how Unstoppable Force said that Caribbeans have more of a privilege in a way because they've assimilated faster. But then that's the major difference between the Caribbeans in the UK and the ADOS blacks in America, where they never had that process. Miscegenation laws was in America, not the UK. That's why a lot of you are mixed.
Yeah,
Why in America they were ostracized, redlining. All of that history is still imprinted on them. So there's a huge difference there. So I acknowledge that. But then I had this rift. I've acknowledged it, and then, you know, people say, "Oh, you can't trust Africans. You can't trust Africans." Hey, you can listen to those who are educated. We know what we're saying. We agree. We will support. But don't just treat us like, oh, we're the enemy, because we're not. We're just ignorant.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of that's to blame to what I've heard recently, the Black Boule, the Black Gatekeepers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Yes. What I would say is the African Boule, they exist too. I did a video on my channel on how they actually benefit in the UK. A lot of elites were the middlemen during colonialism. They're not mixed race or anything. They're black as anyone. They're the military leaders. They're the ones who started a lot of civil wars in Africa. They were educated in the UK.
Okay.
And a lot of them also benefited in the US too. So there is a Boule from every one of our groups. The Caribbean Boule too. So I agree with that. I agree with that.
And then
I think the difference with just to add on one point for you to be proud, I think the difference with the African American Boule is that the African Boule doesn't manipulate the legacy of colonialism and racism. He almost somewhat defended in a sense, whereas the Boule, the African American Boule, manipulates that legacy of slavery to maintain his position of power over the rest of African Americans as he positions himself within white supremacy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Within that system. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's his leverage to align himself with the white man, is by creating a following of Black Americans by constantly bombarding them with these messages of white supremacy and white, like your like your typical Al Sharptons and Jesse Jacksons,
right?
Along those lines.
Sorry, I'm gonna.
So, are they still around?
Heavily.
Okay.
You know, if you look at Tamika Mallory is a product of Al Sharpton. Like she grew up in the school of Al Sharpton her whole life. Right. You know what I mean? She went to his church. She studied under him. She worked for him. You know what I mean? Like this is just a never-ending playbook. If you know who Tamika Mallory is, she was a part of the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Right. She had a separate movement where she performed at the Grammys or whatever.
Okay. Well, African Empress, we're going to say something?
Yeah. So looking at it, would you say the hierarchy is white supremacy, Black Boule, religion mixed up in there? And then do these different Black Boules, do they all communicate with their one another's, or are they standalone units and the other doesn't know what the other's doing? If that makes sense.
I can cover that real quick. I've read into it. So when it comes to the Black Boule in the US, what they have is fraternities, mayors who are kind of aligned with each other. They're trying to align themselves with the white politicians who kind of benefit from all these funds, you know, the welfare system. They trope up the idea that Black America has to rely on the government, you know, the Democrats benefit
the church
from that,
also,
you know. Oh yeah,
the Black church also.
Yeah. But then they play this perpetual victimhood. Essentially, they pretend as if, you know, we're trying to raise money for the oppressed, but what they're really doing is to keep that going. It's to maintain that, you know, second-class citizenship by not, improving the community, just making a lot of noise in the media, but not actually helping the people that need it. They're just playing their role.
You see, I see that in, sorry, I gotta say it again, Kevin Samuels and your Sotomayor's. So I certain time wonder if they're part of that, because I've just heard
Kevin Samuels, he claims to be Boule. He said he was a member of, I think he was a Kappa, right? A Kappa. Yeah, Kappa.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm presuming
I won't think he is. I would say you got a class of, you know, Black people who are, you know, high value in terms of wealth, like they're doing well in business. They won't really be considered Boule. We're talking more, but that's the elites, the 10% who kind of benefit from government subsidies, and they basically control the narrative. But people who are, you know, creating these platforms online, they're doing their own thing. But if they imitate certain narratives, then they are kind of associated themselves with the Boule. Like I feel like, you know, Boyce Watkins or Roland Martin, those are the type of guys who would imitate the Boule, and they would just accept
self-professed Boule.
Yeah. Cornel West, specific people, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did you say Waldemar in there? Did I hear Waldemar?
Say that again?
Waldemar.
Sotomayor? No.
Tommy Sotomayor?
He's just a YouTuber.
Nah, he's just a loudmouth. But the thing is, the Boule, when you look at the fraternities like the Kappas and rappers, that's a part of their model. That's a part of their model, you know, where they support. It's about them. It's about the organization. It's not about the betterment of the community. That's where you get the concept of the talented tent. We're going to concentrate on the talented tent and promote ourselves on the shoulders of the 90. You know what I mean? Why, if you've seen like the whole theatrics and with electing Kamala Harris, like they made
she's
sure to
AKA.
make it known that she's an AKA, and you seen all the ski-wees come out and all the performances. Like there wasn't really a discussion around Kamala Harris, what she's gonna do for the black people as a whole. It was, what is it gonna do for the organization? She's a part of this organization. That's my sister. That's so, you know, but that's a part of the plan of it from the get-go.
So can I ask this then? Because of moving forward as a people, then, because we've talked about the basically the bourgeoisie and how they almost keep the average black person down wherever they are. It always seems to be a prevalent situation. They're in bed with the people to make money out of it. But how do you see that going? You mentioned the talented 10th versus 90%, because for the life of me, I keep forgetting what who it was. The two people who said, one person said it should be a trades people should have. The other person should say it's
Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois.
Boy, thank you. My question is this: where do people stand on that? So, do people stand on it's the educated who should be the leaders in terms of your professionals, your bourgeoisie, or do people think that we should be going for the trades, more, I suppose, the working class types? Where do people stand on that?
Well, the educated should be leading, but they're not. They're just protecting the system that exists right now, you know? Well, Bo, you can jump on that. That's your
because sometimes people, you're right? That's one perspective, right? Another perspective, if you read Booker T letters back then that he wrote, it wasn't so much of the educated, right? It was empowering the masses, right? And empowering us in a way where we can control industries and be self-sufficient. You know,
skilled.
If you look at the history of Tuskegee University that Booker T founded, you know, they did research with George Washington Carver in perfecting different engineering and taught that type of stuff, right? Whereas the model of W.E.B. Du Bois, it wasn't, when they say educated, what they're talking about is white liberal education. And pursuing that the fields of what you see now, basically, where you get educated in a way, whereas a liberal education, period, a liberal arts education, that's what educated was back then. So you're able to speak eloquently, you can move within white circles, you can, you know what I mean? Because for one second, just one more thing, because for one sector of black people, the success was seen through assimilation into the greater white society, whereas Booker T. Washington was more so of self-sustaining a black community on his own. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, right. I was going to ask, don't you think it's a good thing that, you know, in a way to level up, to be educated, to be a unit? You know, all these fraternities and sororities, they try to do that. I would have assumed that was a good thing for the black community.
But if your education makes you reliant upon the system, how effective can you be for the community? So if you look at, let's just take the statistics, right? Of you see black women being the most educated, right? That's something they throw around. I don't know where it come from, right? And these whole boulets, they're educated in ways where they're dependent on the system. So they have to work for the Democratic Party to get into these different circles, and they're relying upon funding from white institutions and you're working within that system. So you're still controlled. You're controlled. You're not independent of that system. So at any moment, whatever you say, it's why certain black people can only say certain things. You know what I mean? But when you become educated in a way where you're self-sufficient in engineering, different trades, whether it's construction, whatever, you're able to sustain yourself. You're a needed part of society. So if a building needs to be built, they pay you for your expertise. You know what I mean? And if you perfect that, they can't get around you. It's like if you look at the Latino community in America, or even the Asian community in America, like it's not a coincidence. A lot of people think the Asian community got that bill passed because
they're not in politics.
they're not in politics. But if you think about it, they're heavily involved in big tech. Tech. So when you see, so you're not gonna come on the internet and say whatever you want to say about Asians, Americans, and put out certain messages, because they will shut down certain things. If you look at the whole Joe Rogan thing, when the Spotify employees was like, hey, we're not finna go for this, you know what I mean? And Joe Rogan had to retract certain statements and stuff. So it's basically putting yourself in a position where your services are needed in a specific industry that can't run without you. So the Latinos, they're proficient in construction and different things like that, where you can't just deport them because it'll disrupt the industry. But Black people, we become proficient in what? Like, what are we really controlling? And we take pride in getting a corporate job with white people, where we're almost constrained. You can't say much in fear of losing that job. But if you was a tech professional, you can go freelance and still make money, still sustain yourself. But you know what I mean? So there's less control.
Great points. So I just want to get Vincent in on here. Vincent, you had a question. I'm assuming, is it for the panel or?
Yeah. No, it's for the Duke. Yeah, hi Duke. Hi, how you doing? Hi. You mentioned earlier, right? You said something about the Black Boule, right? What did you say constitutes for the Black Boule versus the elites? Can you make the difference between the two? I didn't catch that.
Is that Tabo?
No, it's you. No, it's you.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you've got the Boule and the elites. I think pretty much the same thing. I think Empress was trying to say that, people who are wealthy, like the sort of the entertainers and all these other people, could they be considered that too? And I'll say no, because what you have is the 10% who have old money, old guard that who've always been in politics. They have a dad or granddad who's been in law, judges, mayors. They are the Boule. They are the 10%, as Bo said, the talented 10th. They've always been in American establishment, but they haven't really helped the community, so that's what was being said.
Some have, though, in fairness, some have. Right. They've done some good.
Yeah. But is that under supervision from the elites?
I think the difference between elites and if you're talking about Black people, right? So the Boule is more so, you got to look at it as an organization. Like, even if I'm not mistaken, the model behind, even though y'all took it somewhere else with it, but like I was reading about Wola's, what his name is, Wole Soyinka and all that, and those fraternities that came to Nigeria, that came from students coming from America and seeing that model in America, and taking it back to Nigeria, right? And just creating these societies that's kind of like exist within their own bubble of influence, and they pass it amongst each other for whatever they want, And if you've ever been in America and went to a HBCU, a Black college, white people do it too, because that's where they got it from. But it's about keeping the influence within that circle. So if you're not a part of that, it's only so much access you're gonna have to those resources of that information,
Oh yeah, we have that in Nigeria as well. In our universities, the elites imitate the same thing. They're in specific organizations, cults, we call it. But it's practiced here too. But I want to go back to the UK topic, to in parallel to what you're talking about, and how they said sort of, the Caribbeans have more of a privilege. What do you guys think, that looks like in the UK? Is it similar to what he's saying about how the African American Boule behave, or
see, I completely disagree about the Caribbean privilege, to be fair. So I don't agree with that.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that at first. So.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. If you look at the two groups, I can't see where the privilege is. Most leading Black people are likely to be of African as opposed to Caribbean. True. Or African. I don't see it. Even now, when I hear diversity, a lot of it is because Africans have obviously an African name. I think they get prioritized over Caribbeans because you can't tell a Caribbean name from a normal white person. So unless the first name's like a Jermaine or some J.
Names are one thing, but then on the application, people still specify what race they are. So I think they still do identity thing. But I think rolling with what Force said, Unstoppable Force, he said how Caribbeans are more likely to be hired. I think I agree with that, because working part-time working in a job where I had Caribbean and African people I worked with. A lot of the Caribbeans were more in affinity with the English. The senior staff members, they had more of a liking to the Caribbeans because most of the Africans were maybe first generation immigrants that have more of an accent or they're not culturally.
I just want to.
Yeah.
I just want to say something because it just adds on to what you're saying about the privilege. The privilege I mean is not just about hiring. I understand why it matters. Maybe disagrees, and I can see what you mean. I mean, there have been times where I've gone for an interview and I've lost it to a Nigerian guy or whatever. Lost a job to. But that's once, and that's because not everyone's racist. But what you need to understand is, in this country, when you apply for a job and you have an English name and an accent like my accent or something, okay, and you're kind of a bit light skinned or whatever, you have maybe European features, you are going to get prioritized. You are, man, they are going to hire you. And not just that, just when you're in school, just in general, like if you run around a white person might be like,
I don't agree, I don't agree.
No, it's not
from what I've seen, I don't feel like in the UK when it comes to employment they look at colorism like that. I feel like they just see black. I've never heard.
I mean,
you know what I mean.
Way. You know what I mean by that. I mean in the beginning stages when you apply in terms of getting an interview.
Okay.
Because I know certain things that some people don't know, and when I tell them, they don't believe me and they think I'm evil, I'm lying. There are some people that are a little bit racist. I'm not going to reveal too much, but there are some. I've seen some disgusting things. Okay,
but do you know what it is, guys? Do you know what it is? I think it's more to do with, let's say, Caribbeans are more likely to have an English accent compared to a lot of the adults in the UK that are African are more likely to be migrants. So that work here. If I was applying to the same job as you, I'll be considered pretty much the same. They don't really care if I was Nigerian. I just sound British. Do you know what I mean? So it's an accent thing. It's a upbringing thing.
I think it's more. Going back to the culture you just mentioned in Nigeria, like I said, there's a link between the Nigerian and the British government. What I think it is, with Africa, they've got the resources. So if they sell the resources, they get more of a foothold into them jobs. But with Caribbean,
100%.
there's more cultural. So one's resources and one's more cultural.
Yeah.
So Caribbeans are more culturally British. People like the reggae, people like dances, people like the dress sense. So I think that's where the divide is, for want of a better word.
I just want to say something because there's one mixed race guy in the chat that said what I'm saying is based on theories. It's not based on theories. I've actually seen these things, and this is another thing I want to say, which a lot of people aren't talking about. When we're dealing with the Caribbean black guy, okay, you're dealing with a hybrid, a biracial person. When you are mixed with white, you hate yourself. I'm going to say this again. When you are mixed with at least 20% European, you hate yourself.
You're reaching there, bro.
I don't know about that.
You want to know why? You want to know why you hate yourself? Because I'm mixed with European, and I sometimes hate myself. Yeah. I hate being black.
Why?
One sec. Sorry, I got to do this. I'm sorry because this is interesting, but I got to end the stream because we've been going on for an hour now and we've gone off on a completely different tangent than the start of the stream.
Drop the bomb.
So I know, of course, you've been dropping bombs, and this needs to be tackled. I think
the bombshell, man,
needs to be tackled. I want to. It almost needs to be a live stream. The future's bright. The future's white. The hybrid, the Caribbean hybrid, something like that. I don't know. Someone can do it, but. Sorry, CMA. I know you're in the background. I know you're in the backtrack, but I'm really want to shut this dream down just because I've been going for a while, and you boys got work in the morning. You know how it is. So, I think we've come to a great place. I want to say thank you to everyone on the panel for their great thoughts. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I'm just gonna get everyone's closing thoughts. I don't know where I'm gonna start. We've been all over the place. But yeah, please make sure you like the stream, share if you're new. And what I'm gonna do next stream is I'm gonna put some mods on it. I realize I've been slacking. Slacking with some mods. Fiona, I do apologize, but I'm closing down the stream, so you missed a chance. You know what I mean? You've been in the back chat for a long time. I don't know what you've been doing, but yeah, what I want to do on closing thoughts from the panel is just get everyone's viewpoint. We're going to try and go back for the start of the topic. I just want to ask the question: how do you see kind of two-part question. How do you see submission? Is that possible in a modern day sense with the black community the way it is? I hope that all makes sense. I hope those questions weren't too long-winded. So,
Yeah.
if you want to start.
Yeah, like I'm not very hopeful that we can really work it out between us. I'm more about, you look at what's best for you and black male independence, to be honest, because as black men, like I say, we need to really look at the community, but we have to look at what we can do, because without a strong black men, you're not going to have a strong black community. So we need to sort out ourselves and not really too worry about women at this time. But yeah, bless up, respect. Like I'm gonna be doing more stats videos on my channel as well, like you, why it matters. Because again, a lot of the narrative about, especially for black men, like black people need to really read more and study, because
100%.
If there's a lot of propaganda, especially for black men. My channel is for black men, to support black men, and our issues are slightly different from what they have in the US. So we need to have this conversation. So bless up why it matters, and big up to the panel.
And just before you go ahead, I just want to say yes, thank you, Marathon Man, for this live stream. Wonderful guest as always. Please subscribe to his channel. The link's in the description box. I've been putting the links in the chat sporadically, but yeah, please everyone subscribe to Marathon Man podcast. He spits that hot fire, man. So just make sure you know what you're getting into. But yeah, I appreciate you, Marathon Man. The Duke, what are your thoughts on my questions?
Yeah, glad to be on, man. I wasn't expected to come on today, but I think the major
problem coming up soon, haven't we? So sorry, everyone, we got live stream coming up from the Duke. So stay tuned. Come back on Thursday. We'll have another great topic. Sorry, go ahead.
Great. Yeah. When it comes to submission, I think the major problem is within my generation, like the younger millennials. That's the main thing with the social media age, with the feminism age. This thing, because when I speak to my parents, their generation, they don't have no problem with what submission means. Like, they don't have to discuss it. It's in our culture. It's embedded in our culture. I don't know where that comes from. Some people say, in Africa, there's no such thing as patriarchy. Bullshit. I don't know who these people are, but that's not true. Submission is normal in our families. It's not a white agenda. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, that's my rant. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for coming. Yeah. And so, boss.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, I never, growing up in this, the typical single parent household where I'm an only child, kind of spoiled, because I'm an only child, I have no siblings. So my experience is very unique, because most Caribbean people are not only childs, they have siblings. I grew up very selfish, and I never knew what submissive was. All I knew was if I was with a woman, I want her to do whatever I tell her to do. So I don't really resonate with when people say, I want one that's submissive. You have to understand what that is to you. To me, I'll only be in a relationship with a girl that does whatever I tell her to do. So if I tell her to buy me a present, I expect her to buy me a present or whatever. I don't care if it makes me less masculine or whatever like that. Just like that's just me. That's what I want, and I'm not looking to be a workhorse. Although I do want to take the lead, but I'm not looking to be a workhorse. So you have to understand: are you that person or are you not that person? And I'm not that person. So that's what I'm going to say.
Unstoppable Force. I need to have a live stream with you about this topic. I'm telling you. But that's going to be another hot one. And last but not least, the lovely African Empress. What are your thoughts on the two issues? Two questions. Sorry.
Slightly different for me. I'm African Caribbean, so I'm able to differentiate, but bring similarities between my African and Caribbean side, if that makes sense. I think it would work better if there were cultural similarities, but then it's defining what cultural similarities those are. It does depend on upbringing. I think one of your podcasts yesterday was should marriages be seen as a business and not just love? I've always thought that. And then it's having realistic standards. We're in the age when women want 100,000 plus per year men, and it's just not feasible. It's like, no, sorry, it's not feasible. The percentage rate is very small on that. So there's a lot of women going for one particular man with a certain amount of money. It's a bit like a harem setting, if that makes sense. But I think it's very feasible. It's just those prior things, cultural similarities, the upbringing, identify what is required of that submission, and proper communication and realistic standards. But yeah, I'm very much for for me personally, I would submit with the right person. And they say when the man shows what he can do, then the woman's more willing to submit. But it's also, I'm quite a go-getter, if that makes sense. So,
No, it does.
yeah, I think it just depends on those two individuals and what they're expecting from each other, because the man won't always be able to hold up everything. I think we're in the age in 2021 where women do have to work to some level, and it's just a give and take. One day he may be able to submit to her and she submit to him. It's a balancing act.
No, perfect. And true. Thank you everyone for your comments. I do appreciate all of you. On this channel, I respect all viewpoints, regardless of what the host's opinion is. The viewpoints aren't shared by the host. So these are the viewpoints of the guest and their viewpoints solely. So no one put that on me, regarding some of the views that have been expressed today. But with that being said, I do appreciate everyone on the panel, people in the chat. I appreciate all of you. It's been fun. It's been great. It's been a great live. I think it's probably one of my best lives ever, in my opinion. But yes, so I'm going to end the stream now. I hope everyone has a great evening. Have a good night's sleep. And on Thursday, I got a live stream with the Duke. This live stream is talking about Black British culture. Is it fictional? So it's a live stream in regards to a video that the Duke did. So we're going to go through that on Thursday at, I want to say 8:30 GMT time. So please make sure that you are there. But until next time, people, we're out.
Okay.